What divers found inside the mysterious Nazi submarine that sank 7 decades ago will shock you. Hello, you've probably heard thrilling and mysterious stories surrounding the great battles of World War II, but few people know that beneath the deep ocean lies a long-forgotten historical treasure that has just recently been uncovered, astonishing the world after remaining hidden for over 7 decades. In mid-April, a team of explorers from the Jutland Naval Museum in Denmark accidentally discovered the wreck of the German Nazi Navy submarine U-3523, lying at a depth of about 404 feet, a discovery that could completely change our understanding of the final days of World War II. This submarine wasn't an ordinary vessel. It was a technical marvel of its time, classified as a Type 21, the most advanced generation of submarines ever built for the Nazi Navy. It measured nearly 253 feet long, weighed approximately 2,200 US tons, could dive as deep as 918 feet, and had an impressive operational range of over 17,800 miles without surfacing. This very class of submarine has led historians to speculate. Could it have been used to secretly transport Adolf Hitler and his close associates to South America before the war officially ended? Records from the British Ministry of Defense state that on May 6, 1945, U-3523 was attacked by a B-24 Liberator bomber from the Royal Air Force while attempting to flee. But what's strange is that for nearly 80 years, no one could locate the wreck, fueling the theory that the submarine might have escaped with only minor damage. Even more compelling, CIA reports based on credible witnesses claim that Hitler was seen in South America, specifically Colombia and Argentina, during the years following World War II. Adding to the mystery are rumors of a massive treasure filled with valuable assets allegedly hidden on U-3523 by high-ranking officers of the Third Reich before their defeat, making the story even more intriguing and capturing the public's imagination. The wreck of U-3523 was found roughly 11 miles north of Skagen, Denmark's northernmost point, and more than 10 miles west of the location previously reported by British forces, only deepening the mystery surrounding its fate. Gert Norman Andersen, director of the Jutland Naval Museum, explained that the submarine rests on the seabed at over 328 feet deep, making recovery nearly impossible. The front of the submarine is buried under sand, while the stern stands unusually upright, about 66 feet off the ocean floor. This not only makes excavation extremely difficult, but also raises serious questions about the submarine's final moments and the secrets it may still hold. The museum also preserves a copy of the last telegram sent by the U-3523's captain to the German Naval Command. In it, the captain reports that the submarine was en route back to a Norwegian base to resupply and prepare for its next patrol, completely unaware that Nazi Germany had already lost the war. Mr. Andersen emphasized that the theory suggesting Hitler and the Nazi elite escaped aboard U-3523 is most likely conspiracy-based, especially considering that all 58 crew members perished with the submarine. However, the unresolved mystery and lack of concrete answers continue to fuel public curiosity. Historically, the German Navy ordered 118 Type 21 submarines in late 1943, hoping to regain naval dominance. But only 2 completed submarines were delivered by early 1945, including U-3523. The other, U-3525, also considered an undetectable stealth submarine, was sunk just days before the war ended. Another notable submarine, U-2540, also known as Wilhelm Bauer, was salvaged nearly intact in 1957 and is now preserved as a military artifact, showcasing the technological superiority of German submarines at the time. Interestingly, the cutting-edge technology of the Type P-1 submarines inspired Allied nations in the post-war era, laying the foundation for modern submarine design and opening a new chapter in maritime engineering. The story of U-3523 and the mysteries surrounding it is more than just a deep-sea archaeological discovery. It's a detective-style journey through history, raising countless unanswered questions about conspiracies, escapes, and wartime treasures from the previous century. So, what do you think about the mysteries surrounding the U-3523 submarine? Could there have been a secret escape plan involving Hitler and hidden treasures deep under the sea? Or are there even more secrets yet to be uncovered? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below so we can discuss. And now, let's continue our exploration by discovering more fascinating archaeological findings from around the world. who knows what secrets the ancient world still holds? Discovery of 2 unclothed female skeletons in an ancient tomb. Amid the vast and remote grasslands of Inner Mongolia, where modern highways are redrawing the development map of China, a secret buried for thousands of years was unexpectedly brought to light. In 2018, during construction of a road in Baotou City, Inner Mongolia, China, workers stumbled upon a strange underground structure. At first, they thought it was just the remnants of an old foundation, but when ancient bricks began to emerge, they immediately notified the authorities. No one expected it to be a gateway into a world of history, tragedy, power, and centuries-old questions that have never been answered. Archaeologists quickly arrived on site and conducted a meticulous inspection, soon confirming that this was an ancient tomb dating back to the Tang dynasty, an era renowned for its cultural, military, and imperial grandeur in eastern China. The excavation, officially approved, lasted 6 days, and when the final layers of earth were cleared, the archaeologists could hardly believe what they saw. Before them lay a large coffin placed with honor at the center of the tomb, surrounded by 4 human skeletons, all within a remarkably well-preserved, solid tomb structure. Preliminary examinations revealed that the body in the coffin belonged to a man, while the 4 surrounding skeletons were women. What was both strange and controversial was that 2 of the 4 women were buried without any clothing, a completely unusual and seemingly taboo practice that defied the burial customs of that era. Who were they? Why were they treated this way in death? And what really happened over 1,300 years ago? Determined to find answers, experts began analyzing the artifacts, focusing particularly on a stone epitaph found inside the tomb. This was the key that revealed the identity of the man in the coffin, Qin Fen, who once held the title of commander of the northern capital garrison under the reign of Emperor Gaozong of the Tang dynasty. His story gradually came to life, a man born into poverty, the eldest of 6 brothers, who rose through the ranks of the military on sheer determination and strength. From an anonymous foot soldier on the battlefield, Qin Fen achieved numerous victories in brutal combat and eventually rose to the highest military position in the region. He became a symbol of resilience, leadership, and unwavering ambition during a turbulent era. However, what truly sent chills down the spines of later generations wasn't just his life, it was the way he chose to depart it. According to the epitaph, Qin Fen died in the year 698, and before his death, he instructed his son, Qin Huan, to carry out a sacrificial burial, bringing 4 of his concubines with him into the afterlife, along with gold, porcelain, and other precious goods. The patriarchal ideology of a wife follows her husband in death, fused with the solemnity of power, resulted in a brutal ritual that, at the time, was viewed as an honorable act. Yet the epitaph makes no mention of why 2 of the concubines were buried without clothing. This omission has puzzled researchers and fueled countless theories. Were they forced, punished, or was this part of an ancient, forgotten ritual lost to time? Artifacts found around the tomb, from white-glazed ceramics to gemstone necklaces and finely crafted burial goods, point to a life of wealth and nobility. But the absence of clothing on 2 bodies casts a mysterious shadow over the entire discovery. On one hand, it could be seen as a sign of declining moral standards or the brutality of the feudal system. On the other, it might reflect obscure burial protocols from the Tang era, known only to a few and rarely recorded. Although more than a millennium has passed, the tomb of Qin Fen, a once loyal general and skilled military strategist, has opened a door into a forgotten world, where every bone, every carving, and every buried secret holds the essence of a golden age laced with darkness. Have the spirits within that tomb truly found peace, or do they still have something to say to us? Beneath the cold earth of Baotou, the answer may still lie buried, waiting for us to uncover it. Charred remains, found in a 2,300-year-old ancient tomb. Hidden beneath the ground of modern-day Istanbul, Turkey, a long-buried historical secret lay silently for over 2,300 years, until archaeologists recently uncovered a rare ancient tomb, a discovery that has stunned scholars and history enthusiasts around the globe. What makes this finding especially remarkable is not just its age, but the unique way the body inside the tomb was buried, a funerary practice so rare it has scarcely been recorded in this region before. The deceased was not only buried, but also burned within the tomb itself, creating a mysterious blend of cremation and burial rituals. What exactly happened in this place millennia ago? Once the heart of a great ancient civilization? Who was this individual, and what is their story? To answer these questions, experts launched an in-depth investigation, excavating the site, cross-referencing ancient texts, studying historical maps, and analyzing written records. Their research led them to the ancient name Chalcedon, a once thriving city during the Hellenistic period, which spanned approximately from 323 BCE to 33 BCE. Chalcedon is no stranger to historians. Strategically located along the Bosphorus Strait, the natural boundary between Asia and Europe and gateway to the Black Sea, Chalcedon, along with its neighboring city Byzantium, which later became Constantinople, now Istanbul, once executed a bold and powerful economic strategy. Around 235 to 220 BCE, the two cities jointly established a toll system for ships passing through the Bosphorus. Notably, this toll system wasn't just a local initiative. It had strong backing from a powerful external force, the Egyptian Navy, which at the time was under the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty. This Hellenistic dynasty ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great and was famously represented by Queen Cleopatra. Egypt's military support for Chalcedon underscores the city's political and economic importance and illustrates the complex network of alliances between major civilizations in the region. Returning to the recently uncovered tomb, in addition to the charred human remains, a detail that astonished archaeologists, two particularly symbolic artifacts were found: an unglazed clay cup and a perfume bottle. Their presence carries not only material value but also significant ritual meaning. The crude clay cup might have been a personal item or an offering, while the perfume bottle likely relates to burial customs, an effort to preserve fragrance and spiritual purity for the deceased. Most notably, the act of burning the body within the tomb may reflect a unique funerary belief system, perhaps specific to Chalcedon or a particular elite class in the region. This may have been a rare religious rite or a symbolic message tied to social status, identity, or even political standing. Rahmi Asal, director of the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, stated that this discovery promises to open new doors in understanding the burial customs and spiritual beliefs of ancient Chalcedonians. Every detail, from the way the remains were treated to the accompanying objects, serves as a valuable clue for reconstructing the life, beliefs, and culture of a once vibrant community more than 2 millennia ago. This tomb's discovery is more than just an archaeological achievement. It serves as a profound reminder that beneath the streets of our modern cities, under the very ground we walk each day, countless untold stories remain. Nameless souls, silent secrets, and echoes of civilizations long forgotten. One tomb, one person, one civilization, all converging in that single moment of excavation to bring us back to the past, to understand our roots, and to appreciate the intangible values slowly fading with time. Dragon skeleton, found in a 6,000-year-old ancient tomb. In the ancient land of Bozhou, located in Henan Province, China, once a cradle of magnificent civilization thousands of years ago, a shocking archaeological discovery has left both researchers and the public stunned and intrigued. During the excavation of a tomb believed to date back 6,000 years, archaeologists unexpectedly unearthed a mystery that defies all previously known scientific frameworks: the skeletal remains of a strange creature bearing a shape remarkably similar to the legendary dragon. There were no human remains, no gold, no jewels. The only thing buried deep beneath the cold earth was a creature thought to exist only in myth, and that alone has ignited an unprecedented wave of speculation and debate. In Chinese culture, dragons have long been considered sacred beings, symbolizing seasonal harmony, abundant harvests, and imperial power, referred to as the divine embodiment of emperors, or true dragon, son of heaven. Unlike in Western mythology, the Chinese do not revere dragons as mere fantasy. They believe dragons were real creatures with a significant role in their ancient past. That is why the discovery of what appears to be a dragon skeleton inside a tomb dating back to the Yangshao period, a formative era of early Chinese civilization, has raised a multitude of questions with no clear answers. According to archaeologists, the skeleton was found with its head facing northeast and its body arranged in an unusually ceremonial posture, front legs tightly curled, back legs raised, and a tail that flows gracefully like a wave. Surrounding the remains were intricately carved walls, bearing elaborate patterns that conveyed a sense of reverence and solemnity, as if this creature was not merely an animal, but a sacred spirit, laid to rest with the highest honor. And yet, what has left scientists most perplexed is this: there is no indication of who the tomb belonged to. Several theories have emerged. Some suggest that only legendary figures with supernatural power and martial prowess, such as Zhuan Shu, Fuxi, or even Qi Yu, kings and warriors from ancient Chinese mythology, could have defeated a dragon. In this view, the creature's burial may represent a heroic conquest preserved for eternity. But is it truly the skeleton of a real dragon? Or was this a symbolic burial ritual intended to display the authority and mythic stature of an ancient leader? And if dragons once existed, does this mean that ancient civilizations might be hiding a lost chapter of history, one where humans and creatures we now call mythical once coexisted? Of course, despite the many theories proposed, the identity of the tomb's owner remains unknown, and the dragon skeleton still lies undisturbed, challenging the limits of what humanity believes to be possible. This is more than just an archaeological dig. It is a doorway into a completely new chapter of human history, one that blurs the line between legend and reality, between belief and historical truth. And perhaps the answer to the dragon, the sacred creature of the East, will continue to captivate generations of explorers and thinkers for years to come. So what about you? Do you believe that dragons could have really existed? A massive treasure, scattered across an ancient Chinese tomb. On an otherwise ordinary morning in the 1960s, in the town of Gaowu, Anji County, Zhejiang Province, China, an area surrounded by towering stone mountains, a Chinese military unit was carrying out a mission to blast rocks for bridge construction materials. However, none of them could have anticipated that each detonation would not only shatter the mountainside, but also unearth a piece of history buried for centuries. Beneath those layers of stone lay a silent ancient tomb, deep underground, waiting for that fateful moment to reveal itself to the world. The explosions tore through the mountain face and sent a shower of gold, silver, jewels, and priceless antiquities scattering in all directions, creating a breathtaking scene that eyewitnesses would remember for the rest of their lives. Locals rushed to the site, first out of curiosity, then with growing excitement. They picked up pieces of gold, jade artifacts, and glittering treasures, items that had once been reverently placed in the sacred resting place of a historical figure. The incident was quickly reported to local authorities, and in a short time, the Bureau of Cultural Relics, in coordination with other government agencies, launched an investigation. Officials appealed to the public to voluntarily return any artifacts they had collected, and fortunately, most people complied. As a result, authorities were able to recover 5 gold artifacts, 23 silver items, 5 precious jade pieces, numerous agates and ambers, and 3 intricately crafted folding fans. But that was only the beginning. Archaeologists soon arrived at the scene to examine the newly discovered tomb, and they quickly realized this was no ordinary burial site. After careful analysis and identification of the artifacts, they confirmed that the tomb belonged to none other than Wu Lin, a high-ranking official during the Ming Dynasty who once served as the provincial inspector of Shandong. What surprised many was that Wu Lin had been renowned for his integrity, modest lifestyle, and rejection of luxury. He was a model scholar and upright man who retired from government service in 1547 to return to his hometown, seeking peace and avoiding the intense political rivalries of the time. So why would someone who lived so modestly be buried with such a vast treasure? Experts believe the answer lies in the deep love of his family. According to their assessment, the wealth may have been placed there by Wu Lin's 4 sons. Each of them was successful and capable, and, most importantly, deeply devoted to their father. Upon his passing, they used their substantial means to bury him with the most precious items they could offer, as a final tribute to the exemplary man who raised them. This treasure, with an estimated value of around $28 million USD, is more than just material wealth. It is a vivid testament to a bygone era, to a great individual, and to a moving tradition of filial piety. If I were to say that the story of this tomb, discovered purely by chance in the wake of a dynamite blast, is not only of archaeological value, but also a powerful reminder of the importance of honoring the past, remembering those who came before us, and, above all, recognizing how the bonds of family can transcend even the boundary between life and death. It would not be an exaggeration, would it? The oldest brewery in the world. Have you ever imagined that more than 5,000 years ago, in a legendary land along the Nile River, Egypt was home to the largest brewery of the ancient world? Probably not, and you might not even believe it. But recently, archaeologists unearthed the remains of a massive brewery in the ancient city of Abydos, Egypt, a site that once served as a center of power and religion for the legendary pharaohs. This discovery not only sheds light on the daily life of ancient Egyptians, but also completely reshapes our understanding of their civilization. Dating back to the time of Pharaoh Narmer, believed to be the first king of a unified Egypt around 3100 BCE, this brewery is now considered the oldest known beer production facility in the world. But what makes it truly remarkable isn't just its age, but also the central role that beer played in the cultural and religious life of ancient Egyptians. Beer was not merely a beverage or a common drink at daily meals. It was an essential part of royal ceremonies and sacred rituals. That's why the location of the brewery in Abydos is no coincidence. Abydos has long been recognized as a sacred center, where great pharaohs like Ramses II and Seti I built grand temples, including a sanctuary to Osiris, the god of the afterlife in ancient Egyptian belief. The presence of the brewery at this site is a testament to the deep connection between the Egyptians' material and spiritual lives. What's particularly impressive is the scale of this ancient brewery. It consisted of 8 separate production areas, each containing up to 40 massive clay vats. These vats were used to ferment a mixture of grains and water, the primary ingredients in the Egyptians' distinctive style of beer. With such a large-scale setup, the brewery could produce up to approximately 5,900 gallons of beer at a time, enough to serve not only elaborate ceremonies but also meet the daily needs of the local population. One fascinating study by experts revealed that laborers at the time were given about 2.6 gallons of beer per day, an amount that may surprise us today, but reflects how vital this drink was to their physical and spiritual well-being. This discovery gives us not only a deeper understanding of ancient Egyptian brewing techniques, but also a glimpse into the complexity and organization of industrial production in early civilizations. The brewery at Abydos stands as vivid evidence of the extraordinary advancements made by an ancient society, where science, engineering, and spiritual beliefs were skillfully intertwined to create lasting legacies. Moreover, it serves as a reminder of the role beer has played throughout human history, not just as a recreational beverage, but as a fundamental element of social, religious, and economic life. The discovery at Abydos opens a new door to explore the wonders of ancient Egyptian life and sparks a renewed passion for learning about the culture and history of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. It's fair to say that in every drop of beer brewed 5,000 years ago lies a story of innovation, faith, and the rich, complex life of the ancient Egyptians, something that continues to captivate and inspire the world to this day. The secret inside a 1,000-year-old tomb of a Chinese couple. During the construction of the Ningxiang-Shaoshan Expressway in Hunan Province, China, archaeologists discovered a 1,000-year-old tomb belonging to a married couple who lived during the Northern Song dynasty. What makes this discovery truly remarkable is not just that the two bodies were respectfully buried side by side in brick coffins, but the unusual structure within the tomb, a mysterious window, unlike anything archaeologists had ever seen before. Experts from the Hunan Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology analyzed the structure and offered a poetic interpretation, referring to it as a celestial bridge, a symbolic passage allowing the couple to continue their deep bond, unbroken, even as they crossed into the afterlife. This rare discovery, with a married couple buried next to one another and connected by such a symbolic feature, reflects a profound belief in eternal love and togetherness held by people in ancient times. The excavation not only unearthed skeletal remains and a unique tomb design, but also offered a fresh perspective on how people during the Northern Song dynasty viewed life after death. The inclusion of a celestial bridge within the tomb serves as a spiritual connection between two souls, expressing the belief that death is not the final separation, but rather a doorway to another world, one in which love continues to thrive and grow. This timeless love story, compels us to reflect on the depth of human attachment, something that transcends even the boundaries of life and death. In addition to the couple's remains, archaeologists found a number of grave goods, primarily pottery items, many of which were noted for their refinement and diversity. These artifacts suggest the couple had once belonged to a well-off family. The presence of abundant burial items also indicates they were treated with high respect after death. This reflects the beliefs and burial customs of the Northern Song era, during which possessions were not only seen as material wealth, but also as spiritual tokens, meant to comfort the soul and prepare it for the journey into the next life. The experts meticulously cleaned the dirt from the artifacts and the remains before transporting them to a museum for further study and preservation, ensuring the historical and cultural value of the tomb would be fully protected. Thus, this discovery is more than just an archaeological milestone. It is an emotional journey, a story rich with love and spiritual devotion that stretches back 1,000 years. It allows us to better understand how ancient people lived, and more importantly, the deep spiritual values they cherished and passed down through generations. The 1,000-year-old tomb in Hunan stands as a vivid testament to the connection between past and present, between the material and the spiritual. It sparks within us a deep curiosity and reverence for the untold stories of human history. Who knows? Perhaps these very celestial bridges helped ensure that the souls of the departed never lost their way, and that true love never truly ends, no matter how much time may pass. Excavation of a 1,000-year-old royal tomb. Interior scene stuns experts. In ancient times, preparing for the afterlife was considered one of the most sacred and important rituals, especially for the wealthy and the noble. For them, death was not merely an end, but a transition into another world where everything had to be lavishly prepared to ensure the soul could rest in luxury and honor. It wasn't just emperors who received such treatment. Members of royal families were often buried with an abundance of valuable grave goods, such as gold, silver, and precious stones, which held not only economic value, but also immense cultural and historical significance. However, the surprise of archaeologists was not just in the riches uncovered, but in a unique discovery made in 1993 in an otherwise ordinary village in Zhangjiakou, Hebei Province, China. A 1,000-year-old tomb from the Liao dynasty was unearthed, with an intact banquet table still inside. The story began when a local resident noticed signs of water seeping through the ground and reported it to archaeologists. This led to the excavation of a burial complex featuring a passage over 20 feet long, leading down to an arched gate tower intricately decorated with carvings so lifelike that one could imagine stepping back into the ancient world. Beneath the gate stood two large doors, resembling the traditional architecture of modern Chinese homes. Upon opening them, archaeologists were greeted by two standing statues, like loyal guards watching over the entrance. Deeper inside, another wooden door led to a chamber filled with precious burial items. But what truly astonished the team was a large round dining table, remarkably well preserved. The table was fully set with dining utensils, dishes, and fruits. Although the food itself had deteriorated over time, experts were still able to identify grapes, chestnuts, and various vegetarian dishes consistent with the Buddhist beliefs of the tomb's occupant. Next to the table was a full set of chairs, as if the tomb owner could sit down and enjoy a meal at any moment. It was a touching display of hospitality and warmth, even in the afterlife. Nearby, a small grain storage area was discovered, stocked with broomcorn millet and other grains, showing just how meticulously the tomb had been arranged to provide for the deceased's material comfort in the spiritual world. Equally striking was a green glass bottle containing a reddish-orange liquid with a strong fragrance, believed by experts to be ancient wine. The presence of grapes and wine in the tomb confirms that during the Liao dynasty, people were cultivating grapes and producing wine, an important cultural detail that enriches our understanding of ancient Chinese civilization. An inscribed stele found in the tomb revealed much about the person buried there, a man with the surname Zhang, who lived during the Liao dynasty. He was renowned for his good deeds and was well loved by his local community. The epitaph included a particularly touching and open-hearted message. Anyone who entered the tomb was welcome to sit down and share a glass of wine with him, a warm and hospitable gesture reflecting the kind and generous spirit of the tomb's owner. The near-complete preservation of the tomb, along with the banquet scene and the rich variety of artifacts, has given archaeologists a rare and vivid look into the material life and spiritual beliefs of the Liao dynasty. It also offers a new perspective on how ancient people prepared for the journey beyond death. This tomb stands as a powerful testament to a belief in eternal life and to the profound respect for the passage into the next world, where culture, affection, and humanity were meant to endure, untouched by the passage of time. Strange ancient tomb. On the Treasure Island, 40 people sealed inside giant wine jars. Have you ever imagined that the simple ceramic jars we usually see used for storing wine or olive oil could actually serve as coffins for burying the dead? On the island of Corsica, a small yet mysterious land located in the heart of the Mediterranean under French territory, archaeologists have recently uncovered a highly unusual ancient cemetery where more than 40 people were buried inside massive amphora jars, the very containers traditionally used for wine, olive oil, or brine. This discovery is not just an ordinary archaeological find. It opens a door to deeper understanding of the life, customs, and development of the island's inhabitants over 2,000 years ago. The excavation took place in the village of Ile Rousse, a site that had yielded some archaeological remains before, but this new find has truly astonished scientists. The cemetery dates back to the 1st century AD, located right behind the town's parish church, and seems to have been forgotten for millennia until these ceramic jars were excavated. Experts from the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research, INRAP, explain that amphorae are narrow-necked ceramic vessels with two handles, widely used in ancient Mediterranean civilizations. Interestingly, these jars were not originally manufactured as coffins, but rather as everyday containers for storing wine, olive oil, or brine. The Corsican people of that time purchased large quantities of these jars from Carthaginian merchants, then repurposed them for a unique burial practice. In addition, the graves were reinforced or covered with fired clay slabs, materials reused from roof tiles in Greek-Roman architectural styles, demonstrating skillful use of available resources. This adds to the uniqueness of the cemetery and also highlights the cultural exchange between local inhabitants and the expanding Roman civilization on the island during the same period. Although Corsica was occupied by the Romans around the 1st century AD, archaeologists believe this cemetery was not for Romans, but rather for the indigenous people who reused Roman building materials for their own burial customs. What makes this discovery even more surprising is the cemetery's location in an area considered historically remote and uninhabited. Finding such a complex burial site with a large number of people buried nearly simultaneously suggests that the village's population at that time was much larger than historians had previously imagined. This raises many intriguing questions about the social development and cultural practices of ancient Corsicans, especially why they chose such an unusual burial method. Excavations are ongoing to uncover more secrets surrounding this unique ancient cemetery. This finding reinforces the belief that Corsica is truly a treasure island for archaeologists, as it holds many undiscovered relics and artifacts. Corsica's special geographical position, located along ancient maritime trade routes, likely once made it a thriving commercial port, a stark contrast to its seemingly wild and isolated image today. Through the fragments of the past, Corsica is gradually revealing fascinating stories about an ancient civilization few expected, opening vibrant new chapters in the history of the Mediterranean region. A 300-400-year-old tomb that thieves could not penetrate. Near the town of Nemea, a land rich in the history and culture of ancient Greece, archaeologists have made a stunning discovery: a group of remarkably well-preserved tombs that have remained untouched by grave robbers for over 300-400 years. This is an extremely rare find, as most ancient cemeteries have long been looted illegally, causing the loss or destruction of many priceless historical artifacts. However, these recently unearthed tombs are nearly intact, containing hundreds of skeletons and countless invaluable artifacts, opening a magical window into the glorious past of the Mycenaean civilization. Within these burial chambers, archaeologists found two main tomb rooms, one of which contained the remains of 14 individuals relocated from other burial sites, indicating a complex history of movement and reburial in ancient times. The concentration of so many skeletons not only reveals special burial practices, but also highlights the rich rituals and beliefs of the Mycenaeans during their golden age, roughly between 1600 and 1400 BCE. Experts confirm that these tombs belong to the Mycenaean period, a flourishing era that spanned from the 17th to the 12th century BCE, marking a time of prosperity and cultural sophistication in ancient Greece. Beyond the skeletons, the tombs held a treasure trove of diverse and valuable artifacts, including intricately carved small statues, elaborately decorated clay pots, jewelry made from precious metals, and weapons characteristic of that era. These items not only illuminate the material wealth of the time, but also reflect the social status and spiritual values of ancient Greek inhabitants. They serve as clear evidence of the artistic and technical advancements of the Mycenaean era, helping historians reconstruct the rich and prosperous life of those long ago. What makes this discovery even more valuable is the remarkable state of preservation of these tombs compared to nearby cemeteries, which suffered significant looting in the past. This offers an unprecedented opportunity to study ancient construction techniques, burial rituals, and social structures without interference from external disturbances. Experts are particularly focused on conserving these priceless artifacts and information for future historical and archaeological research, while enhancing understanding of humanity's ancient cultural heritage. This discovery not only sheds light on a significant portion of the Mycenaean civilization's mysteries, but also helps vividly recreate one of the foundational cultures of Western civilization. Through it all, we can more clearly feel the connection between past and present, between traditional values and human progress over thousands of years. Every pot, every piece of jewelry, every skeleton in these tombs is a vital piece of the long story of life, belief, and art of our ancestors, encouraging us to cherish and protect the precious legacy they left behind. For these reasons, the excavation in Nemea is not merely a journey into history. It is a profound reminder of the importance of preserving and studying ancient cultural heritage. Each new discovery has the power to change our understanding of the past, opening new horizons for science and art, and fueling our anticipation for the next secrets waiting to be uncovered beneath the earth of Nemea, a place where history and modernity blend into a story that never grows old. Priceless treasure in a more than 2,000-year-old ancient tomb. In the ancient world of China, the concept of death was never seen as merely the end of life. It was considered a gateway to another realm, where the soul continued to exist and where the living had to prepare for the deceased a full and luxurious afterlife. From this deep belief, the funeral culture of ancient China developed one of its most distinctive features: lavish tombs, precious burial objects, and especially the honoring of status in every detail of burial. When it comes to tombs that leave later generations in awe, one cannot overlook the extraordinary story surrounding the resting place of King Liu Mu of Chu, a vassal king during the Han Dynasty, whose jade coffin even notorious tomb robbers dared not disturb. Buried over 2,000 years ago, King Liu Mu's tomb is one of the most sensational archaeological discoveries due to its extravagance and mystery. Strangely, although the tomb was once violated by grave robbers, the most valuable treasure, the coffin crafted entirely from jade, remained untouched. Meanwhile, smaller valuables like gold nails and metal items were stolen. This raises an intriguing question. Why was this priceless treasure left behind? Was it because of its great spiritual significance that even thieves feared it? Or was it the coffin's enormous weight and sturdy construction that made moving it impossible? These mysteries remain unanswered, deepening the historical and enigmatic value of the tomb. According to historical records, King Liu Mu was the son of King Liu Ying of Chu, who was the nephew of Emperor Gaozu of Han, Liu Bang. After his father died in 174 BCE, Liu Mu inherited the title and became one of the powerful vassal kings under the Western Han Dynasty. However, his glory was short-lived. Just 2 decades later, he became one of the 7 kings who rebelled against Emperor Jing of Han, Liu Qi, the 6th emperor of the Han Dynasty. This rebellion, known as the Rebellion of the Seven States, was a major event that shook the Han court and ended with all 7 kings defeated, either killed or forced to commit suicide to preserve their honor. Liu Mu was no exception. He chose death in 154 BCE, ending a short but turbulent life, leaving behind a legacy buried deep underground that would astonish future generations over 2 millennia later. The tomb with its jade coffin symbolizes the ultimate wealth and power a Han vassal king could achieve. Jade, to the ancient Chinese, was more than a precious material. It was sacred, symbolizing immortality and the soul's eternal protection against evil. The layers of jade, joined by threads of gold or silver to form the coffin or burial suit, demonstrate the pinnacle of craftsmanship and the utmost respect for funeral rites in ancient China. Today, the story of the jade coffin, the tumultuous life of King Liu Mo, and one of the largest rebellions of the Western Han Dynasty, the Rebellion of the Seven States, enriches the wealth of Chinese historical knowledge and inspires admiration for a culture that reached heights of both power and spirituality. This discovery is not merely an archaeological find, but a gateway into the soul, beliefs, and immortal aspirations of ancient people, echoes that still resonate today. The 10 mysterious and bizarre discoveries, recently unearthed by archaeologists that amaze the world. Beautiful gold and gemstone jewelry in a 1,500-year-old tomb. In 2011, in Datong City, Shanxi Province, China, a team of experts from the Datong Archaeological Institute discovered a tomb dating back as far as 1,500 years while surveying the area before a construction project. After examination, they identified the tomb's occupant as a noblewoman from ancient China named Farong. One expert recalled, the woman's skeleton was placed inside a coffin buried deep underground. Her head rested on a lemon-yellow pillow, inside which were 2 bricks with rope-like patterns. Near the tomb's entrance was a stone stele engraved with the words, Han Farong, wife of official Kui Zhen. However, the team has not yet determined her exact age at death. Interestingly, besides Farong's tomb, the researchers also found 2 other nearby tombs. Based on the tomb's design and the artifacts found inside, archaeologists believe she lived during the final golden age of the Northern Wei dynasty, a dynasty that ruled China for over 100 years before collapsing in 534 AD. Of course, that was not all they uncovered in this tomb. As the excavation continued more thoroughly, an ancient treasure gradually emerged. First was a pair of exquisitely crafted gold earrings, carved with a human face, curly hair, deep-set eyes, a high nose bridge, and a neck adorned with a sequin-patterned necklace, evoking cultural influences possibly from Western or ancient Central Asian peoples. Below the face was a delicately carved soft lotus flower under the shoulders, giving the impression that Farong was cloaked in legendary beauty. Not only earrings, Farong also wore a necklace so intricate that even seasoned archaeologists marveled at it. Although the string had decomposed over time, thousands of tiny beads remained neatly in place as if just laid down, allowing the team to reconstruct the necklace with astonishing accuracy. The archaeologists reported the necklace consisted of 10 large and small gold beads, 9 finely hammered gold plates, 2 sparkling crystal beads, 42 precious pearls, and, most astonishingly, over 4,800 tiny glass beads, each about the size of millet seeds, in 2 colors, blue and black. This level of craftsmanship not only spoke to the wealth of the owner, but also demonstrated that jewelry making during the Northern Wei dynasty had reached a peak of technical skill. Remarkably, in recent years, many other pairs of gold earrings have been found in Northern Wei tombs, but according to the experts, none match the sophistication, complexity, and artistic craftsmanship of Farong's earrings. Could this be a silent confirmation of her special status in society at the time? The historical perspective adds another layer of intrigue. Datong, where Farong rests, was the capital of the Northern Wei dynasty until 494 AD. Her burial there not only reflected her status as a noblewoman, but also indicated she lived at the political power center where the dynasty's decisions were made. Looking at the whole picture, from the lemon-yellow pillow and the human-faced earrings to the nearly 5,000 bead necklace, we don't just see an ancient tomb, but an era, a civilization, and a person who once walked, lived, loved, and was respected in ancient Chinese society. Farong is not just a name in history. Through the treasures found in her tomb, she lives again, embodied by the beauty, sophistication, and power left behind by her era. And that is why, even after more than 1,500 years, the name Farong still commands worldwide admiration for her wealth and extravagant taste. a $680,000 pure gold treasure. What seemed like an ordinary hiking trip took a sudden turn when two climbers happened to pause at a moss-covered cliff, and in that very moment, history seemed to hold its breath. These two anonymous hikers, with no goal other than relaxing in nature, unexpectedly became the main characters in a story more thrilling than any detective novel. Because they discovered a real treasure, not a legend, not a game, but a pure gold hoard valued at $680,000, buried deep in the Krkonoša Mountains in the Czech Republic. From that moment on, archaeologists, historians, and even the online community were swept into an ongoing mystery. Who hid this treasure, and why? The story began in February, in freezing cold weather. A strange glint on an ancient stone wall caught the attention of the two hikers. Upon closer inspection, they found something shiny. It was metal but showed no signs of rust. Carefully, they pulled out an old aluminum can. Inside was not milk or water as one might expect, but 598 gold coins. All were carefully wrapped in black cloth and neatly stacked in columns, as if the treasure's owner had prepared them deliberately, meticulously, and without haste. But the story did not end there. Just a few steps away, they found another metal box filled with gold jewelry, including 16 snuff boxes, 10 bracelets, a comb, a necklace with a small sparkling key, and even a powder compact, all seemingly straight out of a forgotten noblewoman's makeup drawer. According to Miroslav Novak, head of archaeology at the East Bohemia Museum, where these artifacts are now preserved, the gold coins alone could be worth up to $340,000. And if all the jewelry is pure gold, the entire treasure's value could easily double. Yet money is not what makes this discovery extraordinary. What stunned Novak and the experts was the treasure's recent age. These were not coins from the Middle Ages, nor Roman or Bronze Age artifacts. The newest coin was minted in 1921, meaning the treasure was buried less than 100 years ago. For the first time in many years, researchers might precisely trace the origin of an ancient treasure through archival records, documents, or even living witnesses. And further analysis made the mystery even more fascinating. None of the nearly 600 coins had ever circulated in the Krkonoša region where the treasure was found. Half originated from Western Europe, including France and Belgium. The rest came from scattered places like the Balkans, Russia, Tunisia, the Ottoman Empire, and various African countries. Some Balkan coins had small holes, signs that they were once used as jewelry or sewn onto traditional garments. Immediately, numerous theories emerged. Some suggested the treasure belonged to a wealthy merchant trying to hide it during wartime. Others suspected it was war loot from a soldier returning after World War II. Another popular hypothesis pointed to nobility who fled the conflict never to return. Even the online community got involved. Some claimed the treasure was the personal collection of a prison camp guard. Others insisted it belonged to a wealthy local dentist who disappeared without a trace during the war. The historical context of Central Europe only deepens the mystery. From 1938 onward, the Bohemia and Moravia regions, home to Krkonoše, were caught in the turmoil of history. Before World War II, about 120,000 Jews lived there. Tens of thousands were deported or sent to concentration camps. After the war, over 3 million Germans were forced to leave. Somewhere among these displaced peoples, some carrying gold, others clutching the last treasures of their lives, might have been the treasure's owner. The 1,000 giant statues on the most mysterious island in the world. The modern world has achieved technological feats that leave us in awe. We can send probes to the edge of the solar system, build intelligent robots, and even edit human genes. But amid all this rapid progress, there remain mysteries from the past that modern science simply cannot explain. And it is precisely these unexplainable things that haunt us, challenge us, and drive us to seek answers. In the journey of exploring human history, there is one strange phenomenon that has baffled scientists for decades. These are the giant stone statues on Easter Island, an isolated island located in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. More than 1,000 statues, called moai, stand tall against the sky like silent guardians of a vanished civilization. But the mystery is not just in their size or number. It lies in the question, who made them and for what purpose? When our ancestors began developing intelligence, they learned to use tools. From crude stone axes, they gradually mastered melting metals, creating bronze and alloys. then advancing to modern materials like steel and titanium. According to this evolutionary logic, humanity's ability to build and create also developed continuously. But what stops us and makes us question is this: how could people over 1,000 or even 3,000 years ago, living on a remote island with limited technology and resources, carve stone statues as tall as 33 feet, weighing tens of tons, and transport them miles away? We are familiar with the image of Moai statues with their large heads and contemplative eyes gazing toward the horizon. But few know that these statues are not just heads. When archaeologists began digging deep into the earth, they discovered torsos, arms, and even intricate body details. This means many of the over 1,000 statues have been buried over time. What we see is only the tip of the iceberg. What was the real purpose of the Moai statues? Why did the ancient inhabitants invest so much effort, time, and resources to build them? So far, no theory has gained widespread acceptance. Some say the statues represent ancestors, erected to guard the spirits of the departed. Others speculate they were used in religious ceremonies, rain rituals, or even to mark special energy points on Earth. However, a significant portion of researchers and online communities lean toward a very different idea, that these are works of extraterrestrials. Strange similarities between the Moai and ancient carvings in Egypt, Central America, and even the Indus Valley have fueled this theory. Of course, some argue the statues are natural products, rock formations eroded over time into human-like shapes. But this is hardly convincing, since no natural process could create over 1,000 statues sharing the same style, proportions, and size, arranged purposefully with many facing inward to watch over the islanders, while others gaze out to the distant ocean. Researchers estimate the Moai were carved between 1100 and 1680 AD, not as ancient as the pyramids or Stonehenge, yet equally mysterious. Despite dozens of excavations, scientific studies, material analyses, and 3D modeling, the final answer remains elusive. Easter Island, named for the day European explorers first saw it, Easter Sunday 1722, is now more than just an odd tourist destination. It is a symbol of the limits of human knowledge. The statues stand still and silent, as if waiting for an answer, a reasonable explanation for their existence and for the mysterious hands that shaped them thousands of years ago. Will science ever uncover the truth? Or will this remain one of the wordless mysteries where our imagination flies far beyond what modern technology can reach? Whether you believe in aliens or the extraordinary power of ancient humans, the Moai statues serve as a vivid reminder that history is not only what we have written, but also what we have yet to understand. The mysterious mummy in the pyramid. In the vast desert west of the Nile River, once the heart of the mighty ancient Egyptian empire, a secret that had slept for over 4,000 years suddenly awakened. In 2020, at the royal necropolis of Dahshur, the burial site of kings and queens during the Middle Kingdom, archaeologists made an unprecedented discovery. Inside a pyramid long believed to be the resting place of a pharaoh, they found not the mummy of a king, but that of a woman. This discovery quickly sent shockwaves through the fields of archaeology and Egyptology worldwide. Until now, pyramids were considered the supreme symbols reserved exclusively for kings. No one else, not even queens or princes, had ever been buried in such a grand structure. Specifically, when Dr. Yasmin El-Shazly and her team ventured deep into the tomb and saw a finely carved coffin resting inside the pyramid, they were convinced it was the burial chamber of a mysterious pharaoh. Yet the truth stunned them all. When the broken pieces of the coffin lid were reassembled, the face that appeared bore none of the majestic features typical of a king. Instead, it showed a woman wearing a Hathor-style wig, a sacred symbol associated with ancient Egyptian nobility. All signs pointed to one thing: this was not a king, but a princess. Right next to the mummy, archaeologists found a wooden chest inscribed with hieroglyphs. Although most of the inscriptions were damaged, the remaining characters revealed a startling detail. She was the daughter of the king, a princess buried inside a pyramid, something never before recorded in ancient Egyptian history. If confirmed, this would completely overturn what we know about royal burial rites during the Middle Kingdom. According to Professor Aidan Dodson from the University of Bristol, a princess even of royal blood was typically buried in small tombs outside the royal necropolis. Burial inside a pyramid was a privilege reserved for pharaohs. There have been no exceptions until now. So what made this woman, though a princess, earn the exceptional honor of resting inside one of the most sacred and powerful monuments of the dynasty? Several hypotheses have emerged. Perhaps she was not only the daughter of a king, but also held a significant political or religious role, possibly as a high priestess or even a female heir chosen to succeed the throne during a period of power crisis. The Middle Kingdom was known as a turbulent time, not only politically, but also in royal rituals and women's roles in power. Unfortunately, the most tragic detail is that the princess's identity remains completely hidden. The name inscribed on the coffin lid was destroyed, possibly by time or intentionally by human hands in an effort to erase traces. So all we have is a mummy, a face carved in wood, and big unanswered questions. Experts are now conducting DNA analysis and cross-referencing the artifacts found in the tomb with ancient records. They hope to find connections among the surviving historical fragments that will reveal the true identity of this mysterious woman. No one knows for certain what kind of life the princess led, how much power she wielded, or why she was honored on par with kings. But one thing is clear: her existence has changed how we view pyramids, royal rituals, and the role of women in ancient Egypt. Perhaps beneath the scorching desert sands, many pyramids remain undiscovered. And maybe more mummies, forgotten women, are waiting to be brought to light. They are not only witnesses to a bygone era, but keys to unlocking chapters of history never before told. Until the true identity of the Dashur princess is confirmed, her mummy will remain there, silent yet challenging, a timeless puzzle waiting for human intellect to one day decode the secret she has carried beneath the earth for millennia. The 1,600-year-old rust-free iron pillar, a marvel of outdated technology? In the heart of bustling New Delhi, where traffic jostles and modern skyscrapers stretch toward the sky, stands a silent witness to history, a more than 1,600-year-old iron pillar, rising tall and proud, defying time and the laws of nature. It is not a grand monument in terms of scale, nor is it adorned with gold or precious stones. Yet it holds a mystery that has humbled the modern scientific community and sparked an enduring question: why hasn't it rusted? Welcome to one of the most fascinating paradoxes in the history of archaeology and modern physics: the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a forgotten masterpiece nestled among ancient ruins, yet embodying a technology far ahead of its time. Forged around the 5th century during the Gupta Empire, a period often referred to as the Golden Age of ancient India, this pillar stands about 23.6 feet tall and weighs nearly 20,000 pounds. It is now located within the Qutub Minar complex, which was once the site of a magnificent Hindu temple before it was destroyed. Etched into its surface are ancient Brahmi inscriptions praising the god Vishnu and a legendary king named Chandra, a figure still hotly debated among historians, as no one has been able to confirm his true identity. But what truly makes the pillar legendary is not what it contains, but what it lacks: rust. While any iron object, no matter how modern, eventually succumbs to the effects of time, rain, and air, this ancient pillar remains remarkably preserved. No rust, no flaking, no corrosion, just a solid, immortal piece of ancient metal standing tall in the modern age. So what exactly made this miracle possible? That question has puzzled scientists and researchers for decades. It wasn't until a team from the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, conducted a microscopic analysis that they discovered something extraordinary. The surface of the pillar is coated in an ultra-thin protective layer, only about 0.02 inches thick, composed of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen. Surprisingly, this protective film wasn't deliberately engineered, but was instead a happy accident of ancient metallurgy. According to Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, who led the research team, the secret lies in a seemingly minor yet profoundly impactful factor: the phosphorus content in the iron. During the smelting process using iron ore and charcoal, the metallurgy of that era lacked the sophistication to remove phosphorus. Ironically, what might have been seen as a technological flaw turned out to be a powerful natural defense mechanism. While modern iron typically contains less than 0.05% phosphorus to improve hardness and malleability, the iron used in the Delhi pillar contains over 1%. This high phosphorus content helped form the highly durable protective layer that resists oxidation. The protective coating formed within just a few years of the pillar's construction and has grown very slowly since, yet it's so effective that it's rendered the structure nearly immune to corrosion. It's almost unbelievable that such a flaw in the ancient method ended up creating a timeless masterpiece. Even more intriguing, archaeologists have found other weapons from the same era, such as swords, knives, and spears, that show similar rust-resistant properties. This suggests that Gupta-era metallurgy may have accidentally achieved a level of sophistication we are only beginning to understand today. The Delhi iron pillar is not only a relic of the past, it is a living testament to the hidden brilliance within seemingly primitive techniques, and perhaps even within apparent mistakes. It compels us to re-examine our notions of progress. Is modern technology truly superior in every way? Or do limitations sometimes give rise to extraordinary outcomes? Today, amidst the hurried footsteps of tourists at Qutub Minar, the pillar still stands, silent yet powerful enough to make the world pause and reflect. It is the embodiment of a bygone era, a once glorious civilization, and a reminder that the world still holds many secrets yet to be uncovered. And perhaps what makes the Delhi iron pillar most miraculous is not simply that it doesn't rust, but that it has endured thousands of years as a time-defying wonder, a testament to the perfection within imperfection. Has the mystery of the Delhi iron pillar truly been solved? Or is it merely the beginning of a much greater discovery? Let us keep watching, for history, like the pillar itself, still holds much it has yet to reveal. The 5,000-year-old sleeping beauty that stunned archaeologists. A portal through time has just opened beneath the soil of Peru, taking us back more than 5,000 years, to the era when some of the first civilizations began to flourish on the American continent. A groundbreaking archaeological discovery has ignited the imagination of scientists and history enthusiasts alike. The remarkably well-preserved remains of a woman, buried with dozens of exquisite ceremonial offerings, were unearthed at the ancient site of Aspero on Peru's western coast. This woman is believed to have held a high-ranking position within the Corral Soup civilization, the oldest known civilization in the Americas. Her body has been astonishingly well-preserved through the millennia. Her skin, hair, and even fingernails remain intact. The tomb was discovered within the sacred temple complex of Huaca de los Ídolos, one of three major ceremonial centers of Aspero, alongside Huaca Alta and Huaca de los Sacrificios. The excavation was led by Dr. Ruth Shady Solis, director of the Corral Archaeological Zone, and funded by Peru's Ministry of Culture. The team's discovery went far beyond a single body. It opened a gateway to new insights into the role of women in Corral society, a society known for its lack of warfare, its reverence for peace, and its emphasis on intellectual advancement. Inside the tomb lay a miniature world of the ancient past. The woman was wrapped in multiple layers of cotton cloth, woven reed mats, and, most remarkably, a textile made from the feathers of the long-tailed parrot, a vibrant bird native to the tropical forests. This provides clear evidence that Corral's textile craftsmanship and feather artistry had not only reached an advanced level, but also held deep ceremonial significance. These were not mere garments, they were symbols of a profound spiritual connection between humans and the divine. Surrounding her was a breathtaking collection of offerings that left archaeologists awestruck. Intricately designed headdresses, hand-woven reed baskets, finely carved bone needles, and rare artifacts such as Amazonian seashells, beaded toucan beaks, and weaving tools, proof of the woman's role in preserving and advancing native culture. More than 30 sweet potatoes, an essential crop at the time, were also found in the tomb, underscoring the central importance of agriculture in Corral society. Yet the most extraordinary aspect of the burial lies not in its material wealth, but in the ritual arrangement. Above her body, archaeologists discovered bird-shaped pottery vessels and a carefully placed basket resting atop a totora reed mat, a plant species found only in the highlands near Lake Titicaca. Every element seems deliberately arranged to ensure that this woman would continue to live in the spiritual realm with full respect and authority. The Peruvian government has stated that the woman may have been a religious leader or held a key spiritual role within the Corral community. This raises a fascinating possibility. Could it be that women once stood at the very heart of ancient society, as symbols of wisdom and as vital connectors to the cosmos? Currently, a multidisciplinary team is conducting in-depth analyses of her health, cause of death, diet, and the origins of the grave goods. Each cell, each fiber, each trace on the bones holds a clue that may help us better understand this woman, not as a mummy, but as a living witness to a once glorious civilization that thrived in silence. As the secrets slowly emerge, it's not just history that may be rewritten, but also our understanding of the role of women in ancient societies. Perhaps it is time to view them through a new lens, one of reverence, intellect, and sacred power. The 800-year-old mummy and her mysterious tattoos that shocked the scientific world. An 800-year-old female mummy lying motionless beneath the protective glass of the Museum of Anthropology and Ethnography, MAET, in Italy, is slowly revealing secrets that have stunned the archaeological world. It's not precious jewelry or unusual burial rituals that have scientists around the globe scrambling for answers. It's the mysterious tattoos on her face that are drawing the most attention. Beneath her time-wrinkled skin lie the traces of a civilization, or perhaps a mystery never before recorded in human history. This mummy has been housed in the museum since before 1930, yet no archaeological documentation accompanies her. No one knows who she was, where she came from, or what society she belonged to. That silence only amplifies the value of what her body has begun to reveal. Recently, in a study published in the Journal of Cultural Heritage, researchers used infrared reflectography, a technique typically used to detect hidden paint layers in artworks, and unexpectedly discovered a series of tattoos on her face and wrist. 3 straight lines on her right cheek, 1 on her left, and a mysterious S-shaped symbol on her right wrist, all of which have never been recorded in any known archaeological context from the Andes region. These tattoos were made using a black ink containing magnetite, a naturally magnetic iron oxide mineral, rather than the more commonly used charcoal. Even more intriguingly, the ink also contained augite, a rare mineral found only in certain regions of southern Peru. Could this be the key to confirming her South American origins? Carbon dating revealed that she likely died between the 13th and 14th centuries CE, during the time when Andean civilizations such as the Inca were beginning to rise. Her seated burial position, short-cropped black hair, and the method of body preservation all match funerary practices documented in the highland regions of South America. Those clues seem to paint a complete picture of a woman from the Andes. But just as researchers thought they were tracing a clear thread to the past, uncertainty returned. The S-shaped symbol on her right wrist remains a major enigma. Among the thousands of mummies unearthed in the Andes, no similar tattoo has ever been found. Its uniqueness has forced researchers to widen their perspective. Could it be a religious symbol, a social marker, or perhaps the sign of a previously unknown ethnic group? This mystery has sparked debate among experts. One of the more controversial opinions comes from archaeologist Aaron Dieter Wolf of the Tennessee Division of Archaeology. He argues that the facial tattoos more closely resemble traditions of indigenous cultures from the Arctic or Amazon regions, societies vastly different from the Andes in both geography and customs. If his theory proves correct, the entire assumption of a South American origin for the mummy could be upended. The greatest challenge now is how to unravel the mystery without damaging the remains. Isotope analysis, which could determine where she was born and lived, has not yet been conducted in order to preserve the mummy's integrity. However, the research team led by anthropologist Gianluigi Mangiapane says that MAAT is considering deeper investigations, including cultural comparisons to seek connections never before recognized. The story of this 800-year-old mummy is more than a historical mystery. It is a testament to the vast reservoir of knowledge preserved within ancient remains. The seemingly simple tattoos on her face and wrist, through modern eyes and technology, may become the key to unlocking a lost culture that vanished centuries ago. This woman may have once lived, loved, fought, or perhaps been a healer, a leader, or simply an ordinary member of her community. But whoever she was, through the ink etched into her now stone-like skin, she is telling a story that modern humanity has yet to fully understand. And perhaps that is precisely what makes this mummy one of the most compelling archaeological enigmas of the 21st century. The 2,300-year-old gold ring, unearthed in Israel. What began as an ordinary morning at the City of David, a famed archaeological site nestled deep within Jerusalem, suddenly turned into a historic moment when Israeli archaeologists unearthed a 2,300-year-old treasure, a delicate gold ring adorned with a vibrant red gemstone. Believed to have once belonged to a young girl during a coming-of-age ceremony in the Hellenistic period, this rare artifact has opened an unexpected window into the past, where ancient stories are told through gold, gemstones, and relics buried deep beneath the earth. The ring was discovered during a routine excavation conducted by the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, in collaboration with Tel Aviv University. No one expected that beneath layers of time-worn soil would lie a piece of jewelry so rich in historical significance. According to experts, the red gemstone may be garnet, a gem once widely used in ancient Eastern cultures. The combination of gold and garnet not only reflects the refined aesthetic sense of antiquity, but also serves as a vivid testament to the intense cultural intermingling during the Hellenistic era, following the conquests of Alexander the Great. The story behind the ring's discovery is as dramatic as the find itself. Rivka Lengler, a member of the excavation team, recounted how her colleague Ben, while sifting through soil in a quiet corner of the site, suddenly pulled up a small, glinting object. At first, he thought it was just a modern piece of jewelry someone had dropped, but upon closer inspection, Rivka immediately recognized it as an ancient artifact of immeasurable archaeological value. The ring was found in a soil layer dated to the late 3rd or early 2nd century BCE, during the time of the Second Temple, an era pivotal in Jerusalem's history. Beyond its material worth, the ring carries deep cultural significance. The research team believes it may have been part of a coming-of-age ritual, a common tradition during the Hellenistic period in which young girls, upon becoming engaged, would bury items from their childhood, such as jewelry or personal belongings, beneath their homes as symbols of their transition into womanhood. Marian Zindel, the archaeologist in charge of artifact analysis, believes that the discovery of 2 gold rings in the same area, along with other valuable items like bronze earrings, gold earrings shaped like horned animals, and a finely crafted gold bead, was no coincidence. All these artifacts were found beneath the foundation of a large building, indicating the area was once inhabited by a wealthy population. Moreover, the collection suggests these items may have been intentionally buried as part of a special ritual. From a design perspective, the ring reflects the bold and intricate fashion trends of the era. The pairing of gold with brightly colored gemstones was a favored style, not just for its beauty, but also due to the influence of major cultures like India and Persia. These artistic influences arrived via the flourishing trade routes and cultural exchanges that surged in the wake of Alexander the Great's military campaigns, which spread Greek civilization across the Middle East and beyond. Remarkably, this is the second gold ring from the Hellenistic period to be discovered at the same site within less than a year. Such consecutive finds clearly indicate that the city of David was not only a political and religious center in Jewish history, but also a cultural crossroads, where even personal life events, such as a girl's coming of age, were expressed through exquisite and meaningful objects. Adding another layer to this rich historical narrative was the 2023 discovery of a Greek courtesan's tomb near Jerusalem. Found beside her remains was an intricately decorated bronze mirror, a distinctly Hellenic object. Archaeologists believe the woman may have accompanied the army of a Macedonian king and died in this region some 2,300 years ago. Once again, Greek cultural elements emerge, further affirming the widespread reach of Hellenistic influence across this land, a crossroads of 3 continents. Mummified creature with human-like hands baffles scientists. In 2018, during renovations of the historic Cook Sievers Hall, workers discovered a tiny mummified creature, about the size of a house cat, with extremely unusual features. The creature, later nicknamed Chupacabra, immediately drew the attention of the scientific community and sparked lively discussions among researchers. What puzzled everyone the most was the creature's bizarre appearance. It had human-like hands with 5 distinct fingers and visible nails, completely different from any familiar animal. Its long, slender tail resembled that of a cat, while its outer tissue had dried and hardened like parchment, a clear indication of natural mummification due to environmental conditions and the passage of time. Its nose and ears were still intact, though shriveled with age. Altogether, the creature's strange yet captivating look made it impossible to ignore. The mystery deepened with the name Chupacabra, a playful and creative blend of cap short for Campus Archaeology Program, and Chupacabra, the legendary blood-sucking creature of Latin American folklore. Despite the name's fantastical implications, scientists emphasize that there was no evidence suggesting Chupacabra was anything supernatural or paranormal. Since its discovery, Chupacabra has undergone a series of detailed analyses. At first, scientists speculated it might be the remains of a cat, dog, or even a marsupial like an opossum. However, after X-ray imaging and close examination of its skeleton, doctoral researcher Jeriel Cartales leaned toward the hypothesis that Chupacabra was a raccoon, a species commonly found across North America. Interestingly, the creature's skull and snout closely resembled those of a raccoon, although the absence of teeth, a key identifier, prevented a definitive conclusion. Due to the missing teeth, Jeriel and her research team have continued searching for raccoon dental samples for comparison to strengthen their theory. Scientific accuracy is paramount, and although they are about 75% confident in their identification, the team remains cautious and refrains from making any final statements prematurely. One equally fascinating question remains: how did such a creature end up naturally mummified inside a university building? The most widely accepted theory is that the animal accidentally crawled into the building's ventilation system, became trapped, and underwent natural mummification thanks to the dry, warm airflow inside. During the winter months in particular, the air from the ducts creates a warm and dry environment, ideal for preserving tissue without rapid decomposition, instead gradually drying it out like parchment. While the outside climate might be humid, the interior of the ventilation system stays dry and warm, allowing Chupacabra's body to become a strange little relic within the historic structure. This unique combination of environmental factors and sheer coincidence produced a mystery like no other, captivating enthusiasts of archaeology and forensic science alike. Chupacabra is not just a small mummy, it's an unsolved story, an intriguing piece in the vast puzzle of science, where every bone and trace tells its own tale of life, death, and the curious workings of nature. Until a final conclusion is reached, Chupacabra will remain a hot topic of debate and the centerpiece of Michigan State University's ongoing journey of discovery. And if you ever happen to walk into Cook Seaver's Hall, take a moment to see if you can spot where Chupacabra lies, tucked away in a forgotten corner of history and science. Who knows? You might be the next to uncover the secrets of this tiny, extraordinary mystery. 444 million-year-old fossil of headless, legless creature preserved more perfectly than a mummy. On May 15th, scientists announced the discovery of a never-before-seen fossilized creature in South Africa, dating back a staggering 444 million years. The fossil, preserved in near-perfect condition, left the global scientific community astonished. This ancient organism, later given the scientific name Curbosuzanae, or affectionately nicknamed Sue by researchers, is a completely new species that once lived in the ocean during the Ordovician period, nearly 500 million years ago. What makes this discovery extraordinary is how incredibly well-preserved Sue's body is, far surpassing even many ancient Egyptian mummies. Not only has the fossil retained its overall shape, but internal soft tissues such as muscles, tendons, and intestines were also found intact, an exceptionally rare occurrence in paleontology. Professor Sarah Gabbett from the University of Leicester, UK, who led the research team, explained, "Sue is a headless, legless, upside-down creature, but within it lies a priceless biological treasure. The level of preservation inside is unimaginably detailed. Although parts like the head, limbs, and outer shell had decomposed after hundreds of millions of years buried underground, the discovery of fossilized soft tissue in such pristine condition remains one of the rarest finds in the field. Typically, after an organism dies, its soft tissues decay rapidly. Only bones or hard shells stand a chance of fossilizing. However, in Sue's case, the extraordinary geological conditions of its burial site made what some scientists call a natural alchemy possible. The fossil was found in the Soom Shale, a layer of clay and mudstone located roughly 250 miles north of Cape Town. This area was once the ocean floor during the late Ordovician period, a time marked by one of the 5 greatest mass extinctions in Earth's history, which wiped out around 85% of all species. Fortunately, the waters where Sue once lived may have been spared the worst effects of that devastating ice age. Ironically, the environment where Sue was buried was extremely toxic. almost completely devoid of oxygen and filled with hydrogen sulfide, a foul-smelling and highly poisonous gas. Yet it was precisely this hostile setting that created the perfect conditions for what scientists call biological mummification, preserving the creature in a nearly pristine state. Sadly, Sue remains the only known specimen of its kind. No other fossils like it have ever been discovered. With its soft, delicate body, its relatives may have been wiped out without any chance of fossilization in the harsh conditions of deep time. Researchers speculate that Susannae may have belonged to a group of segmented organisms, possibly distantly related to modern arthropods. However, they do not rule out the possibility that it represents an entirely new branch on the evolutionary tree of life. Giant red human skeleton, found in 3,000-year-old burial mound shocks world. Surely you have heard of the mysteries surrounding ancient civilizations, the towering pyramids of Egypt, the massive stone statues on Easter Island, or the vanished cultures of Central America. But today, we will journey to a peaceful land in northern Serbia, a place hiding a recently uncovered mystery, a discovery that is shaking the global archaeological community. Gigantic ancient burial mounds containing red-colored skeletal remains, evidence of a strange culture and a giant people from a distant land. Specifically, in an excavation campaign carried out by a team of scientists from the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnology at the Polish Academy of Sciences, IAE-PAN, two massive ancient burial mounds in northern Serbia have emerged after being buried underground for millennia. Unlike any burial sites previously found in the region, these two mounds stand out because of their exceptional size, measuring up to 131 feet in diameter and rising 10 to 13 feet tall, constructed with cedar wood, a premium material at the time. This structure is not just a tomb, but a statement of power, dignity, and distinction for those buried within. When archaeologists began excavating, the first thing that astonished them was the vast interior space of the tombs, a space seemingly designed for commemoration and honor. However, the surprises did not stop there. What they discovered next was even more shocking. Numerous skeletal remains, mainly male, of unusually large size, taller than 5 feet 11 inches, while the average height of ancient Serbian men at the time was only about 5 feet 3 inches. This difference clearly indicates that these giants did not belong to the local community. Moreover, what stunned the research team was the color of the skeletons. They were coated in a deep crimson red, identified as being covered in ochre pigment after death. It is known that in the ancient cultures of this region 5,000 years ago, ochre was considered a symbol of supreme power, sacredness, and was typically used only in the most important rituals. The fact that these individuals were buried in large mounds and covered in red ochre shows they were not merely nobles, but possibly divine figures, revered or at least deeply respected. According to Dr. Piotr Włodarczak, the lead researcher from IAE-PAN, both traits, the use of red ochre and exceptional height, strongly suggest that these people were immigrants from distant lands. He noted that burial rituals involving ochre are often found in ancient communities living on the Eastern European steppes, a region stretching from the Black Sea to southern Russia today. This opens a new direction for studying prehistoric migration patterns and suggests the possibility of a warrior or noble tribe arriving in ancient Serbia, leaving an indelible mark. Two separate burial phases in these mounds, spaced about 100 to 200 years apart, also indicate that this was not just a place for individual burials, but likely a memorial site for a clan or a long-lasting power group. The surprising absence of grave goods, especially given the grandeur of the burial site, deepens the mystery. Perhaps the true value of these people was not in material possessions, but in their very bodies, their extraordinary height and sacred red color, all becoming symbols. So, who were they? Migrant warriors from the vast eastern steppes, bringing with them a culture, rituals, and power unknown to the locals? Or spiritual leaders, sages, bearers of knowledge, religion, and cultural transformation for an entire region? While the final answer lies ahead, one thing is certain: these two burial mounds in northern Serbia are more than just graves. They are stone and earth books telling a glorious and mysterious chapter of human history, a chapter we have only just begun to uncover. And of course, this is not the only discovery in today's video. Throughout history and up to the present, archaeologists have uncovered many mysteries, some even more frightening. So, what are these discoveries? Let's explore them together right now. The body of a young girl and two sparrowheads in a Polish cave. Unveiling Cave, a seemingly insignificant cave nestled in the limestone mountains of southern Poland, has become the focal point of international archaeological attention due to a strange, mystical, and tragic story hidden within its depths. The story began during an excavation from 1967 to 1968, when Professor Waldemar Chmielewski, one of Poland's leading archaeologists, discovered the skeletal remains of a young female, dated to be approximately 300 years old. But what stunned the entire research team and scientific community was a gruesome and previously unrecorded detail. Inside the girl's mouth were two sparrowheads. Why is this discovery so shocking? Because it is not just an unusual burial ritual detail, but raises a multitude of questions about death, culture, beliefs, and secrets buried deep in the forests of Eastern Europe. According to age estimation, the unfortunate girl died at a very young age, between 10 and 12 years old, and was buried in the cave without any grave goods, which is extremely unusual for traditional burial customs. Furthermore, there were no signs on her bones indicating the cause of death, making the case even harder to explain. Nobody knows who she was, where she came from, why she died, or why two bird remains, specifically sparrowheads, were placed inside her mouth after death. Sparrows, small and common birds, hold special symbolic meanings in many ancient cultures, sometimes representing the soul, a message between the living and the dead, or serving as a supernatural offering. A strange coincidence is that the custom of burying the dead in caves had ceased to exist in Europe since the Middle Ages, hundreds of years before this girl's death. Therefore, the fact that her body was interred in Unveiling Cave without following any known burial rites or standards from the 17th century forced experts to revisit the sparse and scattered historical records of the area. They uncovered a crucial clue. Between 1655 and 1657, during the Northern Wars, southern Poland was occupied by the army of King Charles V and Gustav of Sweden. This army included soldiers from various regions, including Finland and Karelia, now part of Russia and Finland, an area famous for ancient folk beliefs and unique burial customs. 19th century folklore notes that the ancient Karelians believed if someone died in the forest, their soul could not find peace unless the body was buried at the exact place of death. This might explain why the girl's body was laid to rest in the cave. She may have gotten lost in the forest, died mysteriously, and was buried in the cave as a way to follow ancient customs. But if this is true, the biggest question remains unanswered. Why were there two sparrowheads inside her mouth? At this point, the hypothesis is that this detail has a ritualistic element, part of a traditional rite unique to the small Karelia or Finnish community, where birds were seen as sacred mediators between life and death. The two small birds could symbolize guiding souls or prayers sent through the spirit world. Alternatively, it might be a symbol of sacrifice or a superstitious form of punishment if the girl's death was connected to some taboo within her community. No one can definitively confirm the girl's true identity or the deeper meaning behind this unusual burial ritual. Yet, this mystery has turned her into a symbol of a hidden chapter in human history, where culture, beliefs, and war intersect to create unexpected stories. The terrifying secret beneath the 2,000-year-old red bones in Herculaneum. In the ancient town of Herculaneum, Italy, a recent excavation has stunned archaeologists with the discovery of a mysterious red-colored skeleton, dating back approximately 2,000 years. This was no ordinary skeleton. Its vivid red hue whispered secrets from the past, revealing a horrifying truth about the catastrophe that obliterated an entire civilization. The story unfolds in the fateful year 79 CE, when Mount Vesuvius awoke with a roar, engulfing all life in ash and lava. Herculaneum, a picturesque town nestled in the shadow of the mighty Vesuvius, was once home to proud Romans. But on that doomed day, the volcano erupted with devastating force, turning a fertile land into an eternal graveyard. Not only Pompeii, where thousands were frozen in their final moments, sleeping, working, or desperately fleeing, but Herculaneum too shared this grim fate. Torrents of molten lava and thick ash buried everything, from majestic homes to the desperate cries of the living. Among the ruins, the red skeleton found on Herculaneum's ancient beach has become a crucial piece of the puzzle, recounting the tale of a man facing his final moments in nature's wrath. The skeleton was identified as belonging to a man aged approximately 40 to 45, someone who may have been mere steps from survival. Archaeologists believe he fled to the beach, just feet away from a rescue boat. Perhaps he was a brave soldier, rushing into danger to save panicked residents. But whoever he was, his fate was sealed in that terrifying moment. A wooden roof, likely collapsed by the intense heat and pressure of the eruption, crushed his skull, ending his life swiftly yet painfully. What caused his bones to take on that eerie red hue, as if dyed by some infernal pigment? The answer lies in the man's own blood. As he fell, blood from his wounds seeped into his bones. The scorching lava, reaching temperatures of hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit, along with ash and debris from Vesuvius, quickly enveloped his body, creating a nearly airless environment. The blood, subjected to extreme heat, dried and adhered to the bones like a natural dye. Over nearly 2,000 years, this dried blood was miraculously preserved, transforming the skeleton into a vivid testament to the tragedy. The brilliant red is not just a mark of a tragic death, but a reminder of life's fragility against nature's power. This discovery not only sheds light on one man's fate, but also opens a window into the Vesuvius disaster. Though less famous than Pompeii, Herculaneum holds unique secrets due to its exceptional preservation conditions. The extreme heat from the eruption sealed many artifacts and remains, allowing scientists to reconstruct the final moments of its residents. The red skeleton is more than an archaeological relic. It's a living story of courage, despair, and nature's cruelty. If you were there in that horrific moment, would you flee or stay to save others? In your final moments, what would you think when faced with an unstoppable disaster? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. A 31,000-year-old skeleton reveals a miraculous surgery that shakes the history of prehistoric medicine. In a damp cave layered with ancient silt on the island of Borneo, Indonesia, a skeleton had lain undisturbed for over 31,000 years, silently guarding a secret unlike anything seen before in human history. Then in 2020, a team of archaeologists from Griffith University, Australia, unearthed a stunning window into the past. This wasn't just a prehistoric body. It was living proof that Stone Age humans may have performed a highly skilled limb amputation, not only successfully, but with surgical precision and medical knowledge far beyond what anyone had imagined. According to a study published in Nature, the remains had remained intact for tens of thousands of years, preserving an incredibly valuable archaeological context. While researchers have not yet been able to determine the skeleton's sex, the individual is estimated to have died between the ages of 19 and 21. What shocked the scientific community was the condition of the left leg. It was completely gone. But not due to an accident, animal attack, or natural decay. It had been intentionally and cleanly amputated. Clear evidence of a complex surgical procedure, likely performed when the person was still an adolescent. If confirmed, this would be the oldest known case of a surgical amputation in human history. The previous record holder was a 7,000-year-old skeleton found in France, showing a forearm had been removed. The discovery in Indonesia not only smashes that age record, but it also forces historians and medical scholars to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the technological and medical abilities of Stone Age humans. When scientists closely analyzed the cut bone, they found no signs of infection, something that would have been almost inevitable without basic knowledge of antiseptics or hygiene. Even more astonishing, the bone showed signs of regrowth, strong evidence that the person survived the surgery and lived for at least 6 to 9 more years afterward. While the rest of the skeleton had developed like that of a typical adult, the amputated leg bone remained child-sized, indicating the amputation happened early in life, well before full physical maturity. This raises profound questions. How could an ancient community have performed such a dangerous operation? How did they stop the bleeding, prevent infection, and care for the patient during recovery, all without medicine, technology, or modern anatomical knowledge? The answer may lie in early humans' ability to adapt and learn from nature. According to the research team, prehistoric surgeons may have used incredibly sharp stone tools, blades capable of making fast, clean cuts. They may also have relied on local medicinal plants with antiseptic and blood-clotting properties. Traditional knowledge passed down through generations of people living in close connection with the forest. The surgery would have required more than just a sharp tool. It demanded deep knowledge of the circulatory system, muscles, and pain management, skills that surprise even modern observers. More importantly, post-operative care was likely crucial to survival. The wound must have been cleaned regularly and possibly treated with natural antibacterial substances derived from plants. This suggests not only the existence of rudimentary medical practices, but also a strong sense of community care and compassion, powerful indicators of humanity and social bonding even in prehistoric times. This discovery changes how we see our ancestors. Prehistoric humans were not the brutish, instinct-driven beings many once assumed. On the contrary, they showed compassion, the will to heal, and even touched the edges of what we once believed was a strictly modern domain: medicine. The giant stone jars of Laos. In the rolling hills of Laos' Xiang Kawang Plateau, where white clouds drift along the mountainsides and dense fog blankets the landscape each morning, lies one of Southeast Asia's largest and most mysterious archaeological enigmas, the Plain of Jars. Scattered across this remote region are thousands of massive stone jars, some standing as tall as 10 feet and weighing up to 66,000 pounds. Some jars stand alone amid the wild landscape, while others are clustered in groups, as if arranged for some ancient ritual. Through thousands of years of wind, rain, and war, the jars have remained unmoved, silent sentinels of stone carrying unanswered questions. Where did they come from? What were they made for? Who brought them here? Recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, the Plain of Jars is not only a fascinating destination for travelers, but also a scientific puzzle that has confounded researchers for decades. These enormous jars are hollow, mostly lidless, and carved from ancient monolithic stone. Some Lao folktales suggest they were made to store wine, rainwater, or food for festivals. However, most archaeologists lean toward the theory that they were linked to prehistoric burial rites. To this day, no single explanation has proved entirely convincing. One of the main reasons research at the Plain of Jars has been delayed for so many years isn't just the rugged terrain or limited technology, it's something far more dangerous. Millions of unexploded bombs remain scattered across the area, remnants of the US-Laos conflict during the 1960s. As a result, many parts of the site have been off-limits to archaeologists for decades. In recent years, however, bomb clearance teams have made progress, allowing scientists to return to the site with more advanced equipment. A major breakthrough came with the use of optically stimulated luminescence, OSL, a technique that analyzes tiny mineral grains in the soil surrounding the jars to estimate the last time they were exposed to sunlight. The results were astonishing. Some of the jars may date back as far as the late 2nd millennium BCE, between 2000 and 1000 BCE, making them over 3,000 years old, older than many civilizations once flourishing in Southeast Asia. At several excavation sites, archaeologists have also uncovered human remains lying next to or inside the stone jars. Radiocarbon dating places these remains between the 9th and 13th centuries CE, thousands of years after the jars are believed to have been created. This raises the possibility that the jars were not originally intended for burial, but were later repurposed for funerary use. Alternatively, they may have always been part of a sacred ritual that later incorporated burial practices. Another debated mystery involves the origin of the stone and how these multi-ton jars were transported to their current locations. Geologists believe the stone used may have come from a quarry about 5 miles away, but moving 30-ton stones across hilly, uneven terrain without wheels, machinery, or modern technology seems nearly impossible for a prehistoric society. Could the ancient Lao have possessed unique construction methods or tools still unknown to us? Or was there once a lost civilization in the region capable of transporting massive stones, much like the ancient Egyptians with their pyramids? The jars' irregular distribution adds further intrigue. In some places, only a few jars lie in isolation, while in others they are densely clustered, resembling a vast stone cemetery. This disparity has led archaeologists to speculate that each jar cluster may represent a distinct community, ritual, or belief system. Yet, in the absence of written records or carvings, these remain only hypotheses, leaving the Plain of Jars one of Asia's greatest unsolved mysteries. More than just a grand archaeological site, the Plain of Jars stands as a monument to the profound mystery of the past, where traces of humanity provoke both curiosity and awe. Whether they were wine vessels for legendary kings or sacred offerings steeped in spiritual significance, the massive stone jars still stand firm after millennia, challenging time itself and the limits of human imagination. Perhaps it is precisely because we do not fully understand them that the Plain of Jars continues to whisper the untold stories of history, inviting us to come closer, to listen, and to discover. The longest meteorite field in the world. Amid the vast, desolate lands of the Xinjiang Autonomous Region in China, stretching all the way to the borders of Mongolia and Kazakhstan, lies a mysterious plain extending nearly 267 miles. This extraordinary area has been dubbed the longest meteorite field ever recorded in the world. Scattered across this field are rocks from space, fragments from a colossal cosmic collision that may have occurred thousands or even millions of years ago. Some fragments weigh only a few dozen kilograms, while others tip the scales at over 44,000 pounds, with the largest reaching over 61,000 pounds, leaving anyone who sees them for the first time in awe. These massive rocks are remnants of an asteroid known as Alatai, which is believed to have weighed more than 440,000 pounds when it entered Earth's atmosphere. The intense heat shock from the entry caused the asteroid to explode, scattering countless fragments across the Altai region in western China. The impact left not only a dramatic physical imprint, but also turned the area into a hotspot for both scientific research and fortune-seeking meteorite hunters. What makes this site especially unique, scientists say, is how unusually far apart the fragments are spread. Normally, fragments from an exploded parent meteorite are found within a 19 to 25-mile radius, but here the distribution spans hundreds of miles. This rare pattern makes the Altai meteorite field truly one of a kind, challenging previously held scientific assumptions about meteorite dispersion. So far, over 163,000 pounds of Alatai meteorites have been recovered, and the search continues due to the field's immense potential. The largest known fragment, a colossal 28-ton boulder, was discovered by a Chinese farmer in 1898 and remains one of the most iconic remnants of that cosmic impact. Behind this wild and awe-inspiring landscape lie countless dramatic tales of meteorite hunters, men and women who roam the wilderness with hopes of striking it rich by finding stones that fell from the sky. One such hunter is Zhang Bo, a man from Shanghai, whose passion ignited after witnessing a blazing fireball streak across the southern Chinese sky in 2009. From that moment, he immersed himself in studying meteorites, eventually leaving behind his regular job to become a full-time professional hunter. His gear is minimal but effective: an off-road vehicle, maps, and a metal detector. Just enough to navigate treacherous mountains and arid deserts where only the most determined dare to go. Zhang once shared that in 2016, upon hearing about a new meteorite deposit in Altai, he immediately packed for a 2-week expedition across Mongolia and Kazakhstan in search of this cosmic treasure. While he hasn't revealed exactly how much he has earned, he admits to having a list of VIP clients willing to pay anywhere from $100,000 to over $1 million for rare meteorite specimens. The value of meteorites lies not only in their scientific significance, they contain rare elements and offer priceless insights into the formation of the solar system, but also in their spiritual and symbolic meaning. Many collectors pay exorbitant prices to own them as talismans, good luck charms, or simply as status symbols. Some pieces have even appeared at prestigious auction houses. Notably, in February 2019, famed auction house Christie's in the UK sold a single meteorite slab for a staggering $800,000. Yet behind the glamour lies a harsh reality. Meteorite hunting is not always a success story. It's a high-risk endeavor requiring resilience against extreme weather, fierce competition from fellow hunters, and unpredictable legal hurdles. Many spend weeks or even months wandering icy deserts or high-altitude terrain without finding a single stone, but it only takes one lucky strike to change a life forever. According to NASA, about 44 tons of meteoritic material enters Earth's atmosphere daily, but most of it burns up before reaching the ground. Only a small fraction survives and lands. Those rare survivors are what thousands of people across the globe are now chasing. Today, the Altai meteorite field is no longer just a scientific curiosity. It has become a symbol of human ambition and the quest for cosmic treasure. These rocks that fell from the sky tell not only the story of a celestial explosion thousands of years ago, but also the inspiring tales of ordinary people daring to reach for the stars, no matter the cost. The mysterious yellow brick road beneath the sea, a gateway to the seventh continent. Hidden deep beneath the ocean, at a depth of approximately 3,280 feet near the waters of Hawaii, scientists made a surprising discovery that stunned both the geological research community and adventure enthusiasts: a winding path of yellow brick-like stones resting atop a deep-sea seamount, resembling something straight out of myth or legend. This astonishing sight was captured during an expedition by the Nautilus exploration vessel, whose team was conducting geological and biological surveys in the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, one of the most sacred and strictly protected marine areas in Hawaii. None of the researchers expected that in this world of perpetual darkness and strange deep-sea creatures, there would be a path that looked remarkably like a modern paved sidewalk, except it lies at the ocean floor, where sunlight has never reached. This road, with its pale golden hue and neatly arranged rectangular stones, appeared like an ancient walkway leading to a far greater mystery. The astonished scientists aboard Nautilus even dubbed it the Road to Atlantis, the legendary sunken city from ancient Greek mythology. The footage recorded by the exploration vessel not only captured the peculiar structure, but also revealed a bizarre alien-like world. Eerie deep-sea creatures, as if straight out of a science fiction novel, glided around the golden brick path, adding to the surreal and otherworldly atmosphere of the scene. However, from a scientific perspective, what appeared to be the remnants of an ancient man-made structure turned out to be a completely natural formation. According to researchers, the brick-like pathway wasn't built by humans, but is instead the result of complex geological processes spanning millions of years. The Yellow Brick Road is located atop Nootka Seamount, an extinct underwater volcano, where a unique volcanic rock called hyaloclastite has formed a spectacular landscape. Hyaloclastite is a special type of volcanic rock created when molten magma explosively erupts and comes into contact with cold seawater. This interaction causes violent fragmentation, scattering rocky debris that settles on the seafloor. As these rock layers cooled and contracted over time, natural fractures appeared, splitting the surface into shapes resembling perfectly aligned rectangular bricks. Samples taken from this site are now being closely analyzed by scientists to gain deeper insight into submarine volcanic activity and the processes that shape our planet's complex seafloor terrain. Even though the scientific explanation has been confirmed, it does nothing to diminish the mysterious allure and fascination of this yellow brick road. On the contrary, it's the fusion of scientific knowledge and near-fantastical beauty that sparks the human imagination, evoking visions of a lost seventh continent or a modern Atlantis lying quietly in the ocean's depths, waiting to be discovered. In an era where humanity has reached for the stars, countless secrets still remain hidden beneath the blue expanse of our own oceans. The Yellow Brick Road of Papahanaumokuakea is a powerful reminder that our Earth still holds untold stories, ones capable of blurring the line between science and legend. A 2,000-year-old Roman city in the heart of the Egyptian desert. Amid the arid and mysterious landscape of southern Egypt, a land that was once the epicenter of one of humanity's most magnificent civilizations, a stunning archaeological discovery has just shocked the world. In Luxor, a city already renowned for its ancient temples and royal tombs, archaeologists have uncovered an exceptionally rare Roman-era city, believed to be the oldest and most significant ever found on the eastern bank of Luxor. This discovery not only revives a chapter of history dating back more than 2 millennia, but also opens a new window into understanding the Roman period in a land once known as Thebes, the cultural and political heart of ancient Egypt. According to Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the city dates back to the 2nd or 3rd century AD, a time when the Roman Empire was at the height of its power and influence, reaching even the most remote corners of the known world. Unlike traditional discoveries in Egypt that tend to focus on tombs and temples, especially on the west bank of Luxor, this settlement reveals a completely different aspect: the daily life of ordinary people during Roman rule. The newly unearthed ruins include remains of residential buildings, 2 pigeon towers, likely used for food supply and communication, and metal workshops that still contain a variety of valuable artifacts. Inside these workshops, archaeologists discovered a collection of items such as pots, pans, water jugs, bells, grinding tools, and most notably, Roman bronze coins. These artifacts not only showcase the technical skill of the era, but also offer insight into the vibrant economic activity and craftsmanship that once thrived in the community. These remnants whisper the story of a once bustling city, a crossroads of culture, religion, and commerce during the period of Roman dominion. Researchers believe the settlement was an extension of the ancient city of Thebes, once a religious hub dedicated to Min, the ancient Egyptian god of fertility, harvest, and procreation. Thebes was not only sacred, it was also a critical node in ancient trade networks. With its strategic location along the Nile River, it was famous for producing and exporting key commodities like wheat, barley, and most notably, papyrus, a rare and highly prized material traded across the ancient world. The emergence of this Roman-era settlement underscores the enduring influence and adaptability of Thebes throughout historical shifts. This find not only enriches Egypt's already vast archaeological heritage, but also raises compelling questions about the relationship between the Romans and ancient Egyptians, how they coexisted, traded, and influenced one another. While most attention has long focused on pyramids and the buried secrets of kings, this small city buried beneath the sand may provide missing pieces to the broader puzzle of Roman-era Egypt, a world not only of rulers and gods, but also of everyday people who lived, worked, and left an indelible mark on history. The 88,000 pounds treasure of gold and silver from the most valuable shipwreck in history, the Etosha. Hidden beneath the crystal-clear waters off the coast of Key West, Florida, lies a grand tale of tragedy, perseverance, and timeless triumph. The story of the sunken ship Etosha and the massive treasure worth hundreds of millions of dollars that remained concealed for over 3 centuries. This legendary vessel, once a symbol of hope for the Spanish Empire, carried with it 88,000 pounds of gold and silver, 70 pounds of emeralds, and countless rare artifacts. Departing from the resource-rich lands of South America, its journey was cut short just days after setting sail by a cruel twist of fate. On September 5, 1622, a violent hurricane struck and sank the ship along with 265 souls, leaving only a few survivors clinging to the drifting sails in the middle of the ocean. For more than 60 years afterward, ships dispatched by the Spanish crown failed to locate the wreckage, as a second storm had driven the remains of the Etosha even deeper into the sea. It wasn't until the 20th century that hope was reignited. An American farmer named Mel Fisher turned his dream of finding treasure into a lifelong mission. Beginning in 1969, Fisher and his dedicated team dived tirelessly into the waters off Florida. They discovered clues, silver bars, bronze cannons, like stepping stones on an invisible treasure map. Yet fate tested him again. Just days after a major discovery, his wife and son tragically died in a boating accident while searching for the treasure. Crushed by grief but undeterred, Fisher pressed on, as if bound by destiny to the Etosha. Then, a miracle happened. In July 1985, after 16 relentless years of searching, his surviving son, Kane Fisher, made the discovery the world had been waiting for. Beneath the turquoise waves, the wreck of the Etosha appeared like a coral reef made of precious metals. The silver bars bore markings matching the ship's original manifest, undeniable proof that this was indeed the fabled vessel. The treasure astonished the world. Massive gold bars, emeralds rarer than diamonds, including an 884-carat gemstone described as one of the finest and largest ever discovered, valued at over $4 million, along with jewelry, antique silver spoons, and even bezoar stones, mysterious objects once believed to have detoxifying powers, each worth tens of thousands of dollars. But the victory came with a challenge. The state of Florida quickly intervened, demanding that Fisher surrender 25% of the treasure. Refusing to comply, he took the matter to court, asserting firmly that the discovery belonged to him and his team alone. The legal battle dragged on for 8 years until on July 1, 1992, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in favor of Fisher. He was officially declared the rightful owner of the entire Etosha treasure, a resounding victory for the unyielding human spirit, for a journey driven by faith, and for a dream once deemed impossible. Today, the Etosha is not only the most valuable shipwreck ever discovered, recognized by the Guinness World Records in 2014, but also a lasting symbol of courage, sacrifice, and unwavering determination. Most of the investors who supported Fisher became millionaires, but the true value of this story lies not in gold or gemstones, but in the relentless pursuit of a seemingly unreachable dream that spanned a lifetime. The 110-pound silver bar and the $16 million pirate treasure of the infamous William Kidd. This past May, the world was stunned when an expedition team led by marine archaeologist Barry Clifford discovered a 110-pound silver bar on the seafloor off the coast of Sainte Marie Island, Madagascar. What made this discovery remarkable wasn't just the bar's material value, it was its origin. The silver is believed to be part of the legendary lost treasure of notorious Scottish pirate Captain William Kidd. For centuries, tales of Captain Kidd have captivated treasure hunters and historians alike. Yet it wasn't until now that a verifiable piece of that legend was recovered from the Adventure Galley, the infamous ship forever tied to Kidd's rise and tragic downfall. The Adventure Galley sank in 1698, but over 300 years would pass before any tangible artifact connected to Kidd's treasure was found. William Kidd was born in Scotland in 1645. He began his maritime career serving the British Crown, tasked with hunting down enemy vessels and pirates. However, fate took a dark turn when he seized the Quedagh Merchant, a ship laden with gold, silver, and fine Eastern silks. This act branded Kidd a pirate and murderer. He was eventually captured and brought back to London to stand trial. In 1701, Kidd was sentenced to death and hanged, a grim execution that took 3 attempts as the rope broke twice. His tarred corpse was later displayed in an iron cage along the River Thames as a gruesome warning to others who might consider a life of piracy. Despite his execution, rumors of a massive treasure allegedly hidden by Kidd persisted, estimated at £12 million in today's value, or around $16 million US. Over generations, this mythical hoard became one of the most enduring legends in maritime history. Thought to be buried somewhere beneath the ocean, lost to time, the discovery of the silver bar aboard the wreck of the Adventure Galley is more than just an archaeological milestone. It could be the first concrete clue in uncovering a treasure lost for over 3 centuries. After being recovered, the bar was brought ashore to Sainte Marie Island, where it is now under heavy military guard. On May 7th, during a formal ceremony attended by the President of Madagascar and diplomats from the United Kingdom and the United States, the silver bar was officially handed over to the Malagasy government. At the event, British Ambassador to Madagascar, Timothy Smart, expressed his hope that the find would boost Madagascar's global profile as a new destination for explorers, archaeologists, and treasure hunters. What began as a pirate's tale of adventure and betrayal is now unfolding into a real-world mystery. What more lies beneath the sea, near the 110-pound bar just recovered? Could it be the gateway to one of the greatest lost treasures in human history? The quest to uncover William Kidd's legacy is far from over, and perhaps soon, the treasure he left behind will finally see the light of day, bringing a forgotten chapter of history into the modern world. A 400-year-old time-traveling ship preserved intact beneath the water. A true ghost ship, preserved almost perfectly for 400 years, was recently excavated at the mouth of the Trave River in northern Germany, astonishing scientists with what they call a once-in-a-millennium phenomenon that kept it as if it had just left port. This ship is not merely an ancient artifact, but a vivid testament to the golden age of northern European trade. The Hanseatic era, when powerful merchant guilds controlled the Baltic Sea from the 13th to the 17th centuries. The discovery originated from a routine sonar survey in 2020 when archaeologists detected an unusual structure buried deep under thick mud at a depth of 36 feet, just outside the mouth of the Trave River where salt water meets the Baltic Sea. Since then, researchers have conducted 13 dives to excavate, study, and preserve the wreck. What makes this find rare and mysterious is the way the ship sank. It did not capsize or suffer damage, but rests upright in the riverbed, as if frozen mid-sail on the water's surface. This eerie image has sparked many theories about how the ship remained so well preserved for 4 centuries. The most widely accepted explanation comes from a rare natural phenomenon. The ship was quickly covered by a dense layer of fine mud on the riverbed, which acted as an armor, protecting it from wood-eating microorganisms and other destructive elements. Thanks to this natural shield, despite hundreds of years submerged in salty, harsh conditions, the ship's hull remains extraordinarily intact. This is truly a natural miracle. Scientists describe it as a priceless time capsule, allowing them to see the detailed structure of an ancient cargo vessel more clearly than ever before. The ship measures approximately 65 to 82 feet long, equipped with a mast, and is identified as a cargo vessel from the late Hanseatic period. Remarkably, archaeologists also discovered lime barrels on board, a building material of the era, indicating the ship's last voyage was tied to the construction industry. This helps reconstruct a vivid picture of Baltic Sea economic and trade life hundreds of years ago. This discovery not only sheds light on long-buried historical mysteries, but also provides researchers a precious opportunity to better understand shipbuilding techniques, trade routes, and even the daily life of people from the past. More than an ordinary shipwreck, it serves as a living time machine, bridging the past and present so we can directly experience, learn from, and imagine the stories that once unfolded on the seas over 4 centuries ago. From the fine mud deep beneath the Trav River, this ghost ship sends a magical message. The past still exists somewhere, waiting for humanity to discover and retell it. Are there other treasures or secrets hidden deep beneath the vast ocean? The journey of exploration is long and will surely continue to bring us incredible stories as captivating as pirate legends or lost treasures. But this time, it's about a true time-traveling ship in the modern world. What happened to our ancestors? The tragic extinction before modern humans. Welcome to the planet of Homo sapiens. Hello everyone, today we're going to embark on a surprising journey through the evolutionary history of humankind. Have you ever wondered, why, out of the many human species that once walked the earth, are we the only ones left? What happened to all our cousins, the other human species who once shared this planet with us, hunted beside us, and slept under the same night sky hundreds of thousands of years ago? Today, Earth is the exclusive home of a single human species, Homo sapiens, also known as modern humans. But if we turn back the clock about 300,000 years, we'd see a completely different picture. Not just one, but several human species coexisted, living side by side, sometimes encountering and even interbreeding with one another. There were the Neanderthals, who lived in the icy valleys of Europe. The mysterious Denisovans wandered through the cold caves of Siberia. And then there were the tiny hobbit people on the island of Flores in Indonesia. A human species only about 3 feet tall, yet smart enough to craft tools and survive across generations. All of them belong to the great family of the genus Homo, which means human, and for hundreds of thousands of years, they shared resources, landscapes, and the harsh forces of nature. So what caused all these human species to disappear, leaving only us behind? That's a question not just for scientists, but for all of us, the final heirs of a lineage that once stretched across the globe. To understand this, we must go back to the beginning. Homo sapiens is believed to have first appeared in Africa around 300,000 years ago. We weren't the first species in the Homo genus, but we were among the last. Before us, Homo erectus, upright man, had already left Africa nearly 2 million years ago, spreading across regions from Asia to Southeast Asia. Homo heidelbergensis may have been the common ancestor of both the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, while Homo naledi was a curious mix of primitive and modern traits, living in the caves of South Africa. Fascinatingly, fossil evidence and ancient DNA have shown that we weren't the only species to evolve intelligence. Neanderthals had larger skulls than ours, made sophisticated tools, knew how to use fire, buried their dead, and may have even spoken a basic form of language. Denisovans left a genetic legacy in millions of people today, especially in Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, and other parts of Southeast Asia. And the Hobbit people, Homo floresiensis, though small in stature, had an amazing ability to adapt to the harsh, isolated environment of their island. They survived through multiple climate cycles, lived alongside giant animals, and possibly crafted hunting tools. So here's the big question. If all these human species were intelligent, used tools, and perhaps even communicated, why did only Homo sapiens survive? This isn't a simple mystery. The extinction of other human species wasn't the result of just one cause. It was a combination of climate shifts, survival competition, and importantly, the emergence and expansion of us, Homo sapiens. Around 60,000 years ago, our ancestors began a monumental migration out of Africa, crossing deserts, jungles, barren lands, and mountain ranges. Along the way, Homo sapiens encountered other human species and in many cases lived in the same regions. In Europe, we met the Neanderthals. In Asia, the Denisovans. In Southeast Asia, we may have crossed paths with Homo floresiensis or even the last remnants of Homo erectus. Then something extraordinary happened. In less than 100,000 years, most of these species disappeared, either wiped out or genetically absorbed into modern humans. Their disappearance coincided with the global spread of Homo sapiens. This has led to a controversial theory. Could it be that we ourselves, whether intentionally or not, pushed these other humans to the brink of extinction? Professor Chris Stringer, a human evolution expert at the Natural History Museum in the UK, once said, "We can't say for certain that Homo sapiens wiped out the other species. Some may have vanished before we ever arrived. But what is clear is that the spread of Homo sapiens coincided with the decline of the other Homo species." It's a sobering thought, isn't it? We are not just survivors. We might have been the reason our fellow humans disappeared. But before we go any further, let's pause and reflect honestly. Were we truly superior to them? Or were we simply luckier? Why is there only one human species left, and that species is us? That's the question we'll continue to explore in the next part. When human species coexisted. Continuing the journey of Homo sapiens, imagine yourself living around 60,000 years ago. You wouldn't be the only human-like being on Earth. Instead, you might come across a group of unfamiliar people living in a nearby cave. They're a bit shorter than you, have stockier builds, more rugged facial features, and a calm, intense gaze. These are the Neanderthals. If you travel further east, deep into the frozen mountain ranges of Siberia, you might hear whispers about mysterious people known as the Denisovans, so elusive that today we know them only through a few teeth and fragments of finger bones. Down south, you might hear legends of tiny humans living on a remote island, hobbit people, just about 3 feet tall, but clever enough to survive in dense forests filled with dangerous wildlife. Hard to believe, but for tens of thousands of years, Earth resembled a primitive version of a United Nations of humanity. A time when multiple human species lived side by side, coexisted, and faced the harshness of nature together. Each species had its own strengths and wasn't necessarily inferior to Homo sapiens. The Neanderthals, for instance, were physically stronger, well-suited to the cold climates of Europe. They had brains as large as, or even larger than, those of Homo sapiens. They crafted tools, hunted large animals, used fire, and may have decorated their bodies, an early sign of cultural expression. The Denisovans, though they left behind few material traces, still live on through their DNA, which survives in millions of people today. This suggests that they not only existed, but also interbred with our ancestors, leaving behind a quiet but enduring genetic legacy. The Hobbit people, Homo floresiensis, standing only about 3 feet tall, are vivid proof of how adaptable human species could be on isolated islands. Despite having smaller brains, they made stone tools and developed effective survival strategies within their limited ecosystem. Clearly, there's no reason to claim that Homo sapiens was superior in every way. We weren't stronger, bigger, or even more brainy. So why did we survive? Some scientists believe the answer lies in our ability to organize socially and think abstractly. Homo sapiens could cooperate flexibly in large groups, something no other human species could do as effectively. In a world full of danger, where a single storm, a prolonged winter, or a drought could wipe out an entire community, the ability to share resources, care for one another, and protect the group may have been our golden ticket to survival. And Homo sapiens seemed to fully leverage this advantage. We didn't just speak, we had highly developed language, allowing us to convey ideas, strategies, and plans. We didn't just hunt, we coordinated as teams. We didn't just make tools, we improved them, learned from each other, and passed knowledge down to future generations. But that doesn't mean other human species couldn't learn. Neanderthals made spears, used fire, and wore animal hides for warmth. They lived in groups and may have had a form of language as well. However, they might have lacked the capacity to build interconnected networks between groups the way Homo sapiens did. That subtle difference, hard to see but powerful in impact, may have been the deciding factor for long-term survival. Another theory suggests that Homo sapiens were more adaptable to environmental change. While other human species tended to stay within specific ecological zones, we had the ability to migrate and adjust to a wide range of environments, from tropical rainforests to arid deserts, from grasslands to icy tundras. We also had a diverse diet: hunting, gathering, fishing, and even planning food storage. This diversity in lifestyle provided a kind of insurance against environmental shocks. Still, there's another factor that has caught researchers' attention. The relationship between Homo sapiens and other human species wasn't always just competition. It may have involved conflict. There's no direct evidence that Homo sapiens went to war with Neanderthals or Denisovans, but the expansion of our territory clearly put pressure on limited resources, forcing other species to either retreat or adapt rapidly, something not all could manage. And so, gradually, the other human species disappeared from the genetic map of the planet. But before they vanished completely, they left behind something unforgettable: DNA. Today, people of European and Asian descent carry 1–2% Neanderthal DNA. People in Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, and even Vietnam carry traces of Denisovan DNA. This proves we are not the descendants of a single human type, but rather the result of a complex evolutionary web, marked by encounters, interbreeding, sharing, and competition. There were no clear boundaries between human species, only overlapping relationships. And Homo sapiens is the last surviving branch of what was once a far richer human family tree. So why are we the only ones left? That question still doesn't have a definitive answer, but one thing is certain: we were not alone in the past. And to understand the present, where Homo sapiens stands alone, we must first understand the past, where many species once coexisted and gradually vanished into the thick fog of time. The story of their extinction and our survival will continue to unfold in the next chapter. When Homo sapiens set out and the fateful encounters. After hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in Africa around 60,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began an unprecedented journey, leaving the land of their origin and venturing into new territories. This migration was not merely a geographic event, it marked a profound biological and cultural turning point. We didn't just move, we expanded. And in doing so, we encountered our cousins from the Homo genus, the indigenous human species of Europe, Asia, and the Pacific Islands. The first leg of the journey brought modern humans to the Middle East, a crossroads connecting 3 continents. Archaeological evidence shows that Homo sapiens and Neanderthals once coexisted here. They lived in caves near each other, hunted the same plains, and may have exchanged both tools and DNA. Modern genetic studies confirm this. Today, people of European descent carry 1–2% Neanderthal DNA, a result of interbreeding that happened tens of thousands of years ago. But this encounter wasn't just about sharing space. Over time, as Homo sapiens expanded further, the Neanderthals began to disappear. Though they had lived in Europe for more than 300,000 years, they went extinct just a few thousand years after modern humans arrived. Why? Was it that Neanderthals couldn't compete? Or did we, intentionally or not, drive them to the edge? Professor Chris Stringer, one of the world's leading experts on human evolution, offered a sobering reflection. It's not that Homo sapiens were vastly superior to Neanderthals, but perhaps we were more adaptable, better organized, and more numerous. When conditions became harsh, we survived, and they didn't. Another crucial factor was timing. The disappearance of Neanderthals coincided with a period of intense climate change, the last ice age. As the environment became more unforgiving, small scattered Neanderthal groups were more vulnerable than Homo sapiens, who maintained wider networks, shared food, supported one another, and, most importantly, learned quickly from both their environment and each other. The appearance of Homo sapiens in Siberia also coincided with the disappearance of the Denisovans, a mysterious archaic human species known only through a handful of bone fragments. While we don't know much about them, one thing is certain: they existed, they interbred with Homo sapiens, and today, their genetic traces live on in the Melanesian, Papua New Guinean, and some Southeast Asian populations. One fascinating trait passed down from Denisovans is high-altitude adaptation, a genetic gift that still exists in Tibetan populations today. In other words, When you see a Sherpa climb Mount Everest without oxygen, that's a legacy of a human species that vanished tens of thousands of years ago. Continuing southward, Homo sapiens reached Indonesia and the Philippines, once home to Homo floresiensis, also known as the Hobbit people. Standing only about 3 feet tall, the Hobbit was one of the most startling scientific discoveries of the 21st century. They lived on Flores Island, crafted stone tools, hunted, and may have survived until just 50,000 years ago, meaning they likely encountered Homo sapiens. However, like the Neanderthals and Denisovans, they disappeared after modern humans arrived. And this raises a troubling question for science. Did the arrival of Homo sapiens, even without hostile intentions, consistently coincide with the decline of other human species? We may not have been the most aggressive species, but we were highly adaptable, tightly organized, and constantly expanding. Each time we entered a new territory, we learned to exploit every resource, sometimes sharing, but often competing. And in a world without borders or laws, that competition sometimes ended with another species vanishing. Of course, we cannot overlook the role of nature. Climate shifts, famine, and biodiversity loss could each be standalone causes of extinction. But in many cases, these events strangely aligned with the spread of Homo sapiens. Perhaps we didn't wield weapons against them, but our very presence, with growing numbers and ever more efficient organization, left less and less room for others to survive. The ironic truth is, Homo sapiens weren't the strongest species, nor were we the most intelligent by purely biological measures, but we were the most persistent. And sometimes, persistence alone can drive others to extinction. Looking back, we see clearly that human evolution wasn't a single linear path, but a dense web of possibilities, with many branches. And only one, the branch of Homo sapiens, continues to this day. But is that truly the end, or just the beginning of another story? One that the next chapter will seek to uncover. The invisible weapons that saved Homo sapiens. If you placed an ancient Homo sapiens and a Neanderthal in a one-on-one showdown, the outcome might not favor us. Neanderthals were stronger, with thicker bones and more muscle mass. They were built to endure icy winters, fight massive cave bears, and hunt forest mammoths. In contrast, Homo sapiens appeared more slender, with thinner bones and less muscle, seemingly weaker warriors in the wild. Yet, in a survival battle that lasted tens of thousands of years, it was the fragile Homo sapiens who prevailed. The question is, what weapons did we use? Not spears, not brute strength, but social intelligence, intangible yet incredibly powerful tools. Language, imagination, abstract thinking, and most importantly, flexible cooperation. One of Homo sapiens' greatest breakthroughs was the development of complex structured language, not just isolated sounds, but full sentences that allowed people to convey highly accurate information. You didn't just say enemy, you could say a group of 10 Neanderthals with sharp spears is moving north. You didn't just shout animal, you could say a female mammoth is leading the herd toward the waterhole. This ability to communicate detailed and abstract information enabled Homo sapiens groups to coordinate hunts, share warnings, pass on skills, and make plans. But it wasn't just language. Our ability to collectively imagine was also a strange and powerful weapon. Homo sapiens are the only species capable of imagining and believing in things that don't physically exist, like ancestral spirits, gods, laws, or territories. It may sound illogical, but it laid the foundation for large-scale cooperation. A group of 150 people could work together effectively if they shared belief in a common symbol, like a tribe, a deity, or a legend. This not only helped them fight more efficiently, but also maintained internal order, reduced conflict, and strengthened bonds during hard times. Technology was another key differentiator. While Neanderthals used mostly the same tools for tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens constantly innovated. Stone-tipped spears were replaced by long-shafted spears that could be thrown from a distance. Tools made from bone, ivory, and antler were crafted with greater precision and detail. And most remarkably, modern humans began creating beyond the needs of survival. Jewelry, cave paintings, sculptures. These seemingly useless things were actually expressions of abstract thinking, the foundation for religion, art, and later, civilization. Social organization also played a crucial role. Homo sapiens didn't just live in small groups, They formed networks between groups. When one group lacked food, they could travel dozens of miles to trade or migrate in an organized way. This created a biological safety net. When facing outbreaks, famines, or natural disasters, humans weren't completely wiped out. Unlike many other Homo species that perished in isolation, Homo sapiens could disperse and recover. Cultural and livelihood flexibility allowed Homo sapiens to quickly adapt to environmental changes. When large animals became scarce, they learned to fish. In dry climates, they gathered seeds and roots. If the land became infertile, they moved to new areas. This diversity in survival strategies meant we weren't dependent on a specific ecosystem, a key reason many other human species couldn't adapt when their environments suddenly changed. Equally important was the intergenerational relationship unique to Homo sapiens. Children were cared for over extended periods, giving them time to learn, observe, and experiment. The elderly, though no longer productive in labor, played vital roles as living libraries, storytellers, and teachers of survival skills, water sources, and poisonous plants. This investment across generations helped build a culture of transmission, something no other Homo species achieved as clearly. In short, we survived not because we were stronger, but because we were better at cooperation. Not because we were individually smarter, but because we knew how to share collective intelligence. Not because our tools were sharper, but because we improved them and passed on that knowledge. These invisible weapons, seemingly soft, were the very foundation that helped Homo sapiens endure, while our fellow human species gradually disappeared. But is that the whole story? Are biology and culture enough to explain the mass extinction of the other human species? Or is there something else, quieter but more unsettling, waiting to be revealed in the next chapter? When nature turns hostile and ecological disasters take over. Until now, when we think of extinction, we often imagine predators, warfare, or interspecies conflict. But there's another killer, cold, invisible, yet merciless, nature itself. And in the story of the disappearance of other human species, this factor cannot be overlooked. Around 70,000 years ago, a catastrophic event occurred. The supervolcano Toba, located on the island of Sumatra, erupted. This eruption is considered one of the largest volcanic disasters in Earth's history, releasing an enormous amount of ash into the atmosphere and blanketing the skies worldwide. According to some hypotheses, it triggered a volcanic winter that lasted for years, drastically lowering global average temperatures, disrupting rainfall cycles, and collapsing ecosystems. This meant famine, disease, and mass die-offs of species dependent on stable environments. If Homo sapiens ever came close to extinction, this was the moment. Researchers believe the global human population may have dropped to just a few thousand individuals after the Toba event, a level dangerously low in terms of genetic survival. Yet strangely, despite this heavy blow, Homo sapiens survived. Meanwhile, other human species, with smaller populations and more limited ranges, may not have been able to recover from the environmental shock. The Neanderthals in Europe, the Denisovans in the cold mountains of Asia, Homo erectus in Southeast Asia, all face the same reality. When the environment disappears, you must change or disappear with it. Some evidence suggests Neanderthals did survive through severe glacial periods, but as the climate shifted, swinging repeatedly between cold and warm, they couldn't adapt fast enough. Their small, fragmented social structures, dependence on large game hunting, and limited geographical mobility made them highly vulnerable to biodiversity loss. At the same time, Homo sapiens held a rare advantage. We didn't depend on a single food source. When large animals vanished, we learned to forage for fruit, fish, and dig for roots. When the climate turned arid, we migrated. When a region became uninhabitable, we connected with other groups to exchange food, tools, and knowledge. These social networks functioned as powerful protection mechanisms. When one group of Homo sapiens faced crisis, they weren't alone. They could send people to allied groups miles away for help or share survival knowledge. Unlike Neanderthals, who tended to live in isolated bands, modern humans formed broader, more effective community ties much earlier. In addition, technological flexibility helped Homo sapiens adapt to each new situation. We didn't just use tools, we refined them to suit new environments. As conditions changed, we altered our manufacturing methods, tested new tools, and learned quickly. This was something other human species seemingly couldn't do fast enough to keep up. Another factor scientists suspect is the spread of disease. As human groups began interacting more, through migration, conflict, or interbreeding, diseases spread with them. Homo sapiens, having larger populations, likely developed more diverse immune responses and survived epidemics that other species couldn't handle. It's similar to what happened when Europeans arrived in the Americas. Just a few diseases like smallpox and measles wiped out millions of indigenous people. Something like this could have occurred in prehistory. Neanderthals or Denisovans may have come into contact with Homo sapiens, contracted unfamiliar diseases, and lacked the immune defenses to survive. Lastly, plain luck, in the most literal sense, may also have played a role. A prolonged drought, an unusually harsh winter, a migrating herd disappearing, or a river changing course. Any one of these events could break the back of a small, isolated population. And when no one is left to reproduce, to teach, or to share, extinction happens without any need for war or violence. We often view Homo sapiens as the winners, but in many cases we were simply the ones who didn't die. And sometimes that wasn't due to superiority, but rather a combination of better adaptability, stronger social bonds, and a stroke of survival luck in an unpredictable world. Today, as we look back on the past, it's chilling to realize that our species, once on the brink of extinction, has become the dominant life form on the planet. That's why understanding the extinction of other human species is also a way to reflect on the dangers we may be repeating ourselves. So, are we truly the pinnacle of evolution? Or just the last survivors who happened to seize the right opportunity? That question leads us to the next chapter, where Homo sapiens begin to enter the age of cultural creativity, build religions, and shape worldviews, something no human species before us had ever done. When humans began to dream, culture, belief, and the revolution of imagination. Picture a sunset 40,000 years ago. A group of Homo sapiens sits around a fire inside a cave. They're not just sharing the meat from a successful hunt, they're telling stories. Not everyday tales, but stories about ancestral spirits, about a giant tiger in the sky, about a sacred river that carries souls to distant mountains. These stories didn't exist out there in the world, they existed in the imagination. And from that moment, modern humans began to set themselves apart. This was the second great revolution in Homo sapiens history. Not a revolution of tools, but of symbols. The first evidence of this comes from cave paintings in Chauvet, France, Lascaux, Spain, and Sulawesi, Indonesia. These paintings depict herds of animals in motion, hunters, handprints made with colored powder, all pointing to one thing. Modern humans didn't just live in the world, they experienced it through images and meaning. Other Homo species also knew how to make tools, hunt, and live in groups, but only Homo sapiens left behind clear evidence of art. We didn't just exist in the physical world, we began to build a parallel world in our minds. And that changed everything. Art wasn't just decoration, it reflected the ability to think abstractly, to assign meaning to symbols. A handprint wasn't just a handprint, it meant, I was here. A painting of a deer wasn't just a deer, it was a prayer for a successful hunt. From here, humans began to connect with the invisible, the unprovable, and from this, belief systems were born. One of the most important legacies Homo sapiens left behind was the birth of primitive religion. At many archaeological sites, human remains have been found buried with necklaces, stone knives, and engraved bones, evidence of a belief in an afterlife. This wasn't just emotional expression, it formed the foundation of social organization. A community that believes in the same God will behave differently from one that only believes in its next meal. Even in its earliest form, religion created moral codes, shared beliefs, and systems of behavioral control far beyond biological instincts. While other Homo species functioned based on reflexes and instincts, Homo sapiens operated on ideas, and that gave them unprecedented power. Then came early symbolic writing and mathematical thinking. Repeating marks carved into bones or stones, though not true writing, indicated an emerging awareness of counting, cycles, and information organization. This thinking about time and the symbolic recording of knowledge paved the way for everything: agriculture, faith, and administration. Another fascinating element was the role of music. Bone flutes dating back over 35,000 years show that early modern humans could create melodic sound, not for practical use, but to forge emotional bonds. Like religion, Music became an invisible tool of connection, helping build communal identity, reduce stress, transmit feelings, and establish rituals. All of this, art, belief, music, symbolism, didn't help you run faster or hunt better, but they made your group more cohesive, more trusting, and most importantly, capable of forming collective memory. When a group of people shares the same memories and legends, they're not just individuals standing side by side. They are a tribe, a community with an identity. And this is what made Homo sapiens irreplaceable. These communities didn't just survive, they left a mark. Caves became ceremonial spaces, land became ancestral territory, the star-filled sky became a spiritual map. Bit by bit, Homo sapiens transformed from a wild animal into a being with history, identity, and self-awareness. That's something no other Homo species achieved, at least based on the evidence we have. Neanderthals may have buried their dead or worn shell necklaces, but they left no cave paintings, no clear signs of symbolic thinking. And in a world where abstraction forms the basis of culture, law, and organization, Homo sapiens had a decisive edge. We might call this the cognitive revolution. The moment humans stopped living only by flesh, water, and fire, and began living by meaning, memory, and dreams. From this revolution, Homo sapiens began their journey to mastering nature, not through muscle, but through intellect, symbols, and shared imagination. And that laid the foundation for the next great leap, when Homo sapiens stopped wandering as foragers and began building villages, planting rice, and domesticating animals, entering the age of agriculture. Another great leap awaits. And that will be the story of the next chapter. From nomads to landmasters, the agricultural revolution that changed the world. If in the previous section we saw Homo sapiens begin to dream, that is, to imagine, worship, and create art, this part is when those dreams were realized in a completely new material world. A world no longer defined by aimless wandering, but marked by villages, farmlands, and neighbors. About 12,000 years ago, at the end of the Ice Age, the global climate began to warm. Ice melted, rivers revived, and green grasslands returned. Against this backdrop, a major turning point occurred. Humans began deliberately farming crops and domesticating animals for the first time. This was no longer the old lifestyle of hunting, gathering, and foraging practiced for hundreds of thousands of years. It was taking control over food production. This revolution didn't happen all at once, but appeared in different places, from Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, to the Yellow River Basin in China, from the Andes Mountains in South America to the Nile River valleys in Africa. Each civilization had its own staple crops: wheat, millet, rice, maize, potatoes, but despite the differences, the outcome was the same. Humans stopped roaming and began to settle. This was a profound change. In the past, moving was survival. When a place ran out of food, you had to leave. Now, staying put became survival, because farmlands can't be carried away, and a stable food source tied people to specific land. And from there, everything else followed. Houses, granaries, defense systems, labor division, technological improvements, and gradually the formation of complex societies. The first villages emerged. Small communities now had reasons to stay close for long periods. They started building houses from bricks, digging rainwater cisterns, erecting fences to keep wild animals out. And because they lived together long-term, rules had to be made. Social norms began. Who planted which field, who managed irrigation, who was allowed into the forest to gather fruit. These customs gradually became traditions, then laws. At the same time, people began domesticating animals. Dogs came first, probably from wild wolves that grew accustomed to humans and begged for food. Later came sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs. With domesticated animals, Homo sapiens not only gained new food sources, but also had draft animals, fertilizer, and animal hides for clothing and tents. This reduced dependence on nature, increased human control, and allowed populations to stabilize at higher levels. When humans produced more food than the minimum needed to survive, the concept of surplus emerged. And the miracle was this: surplus gave rise to civilization. Once some people produced enough food for the whole group, others could specialize in different jobs, making tools, weaving cloth, crafting pottery, recording information, measuring time, or governing. From here, social classes appeared. Farmers, potters, storekeepers, scribes, priests, and rulers. These communities gradually grew into early cities, then states, then empires. Every civilization in history, from Egypt, Mesopotamia, and India to China, began with rice or grain cultivation, plowing fields, storing harvests, and appointing granary keepers. The agricultural revolution also profoundly changed humanity's relationship with nature. Before, we were a small part of nature, quietly passing through forests, living season to season. Now, we reshaped nature to meet our needs, building dikes to prevent floods, digging irrigation canals, clearing forests for fields. We no longer depended solely on natural cycles, but influenced them to create our own rhythms. However, not all was positive. Agriculture brought new costs. Living in dense settlements made it easier for diseases to spread. Thus, the first epidemics appeared. Monoculture farming depleted the soil, scarcity of resources sparked conflicts, and wealth accumulation led to social inequality. Some owned land, others did not. Some had granaries full of grain, others went hungry. But in return, humanity entered a new era, the age of organized intellect. No longer driven solely by survival instincts, Homo sapiens became architects of their world, from houses and roads to rituals, religions, and legal systems. With this foundation, modern humans began leaving clear footprints in history, not just fossils, but cities, pyramids, written records, and stone statues. Humans now did not just dream, they recorded their dreams. And that dream will lead us to the next chapter, where Homo sapiens reached their peak, founding nations, conquering lands, waging wars, achieving glory, and facing decline. Nation building, conquest, and claiming the planet. As Homo sapiens settled down, farmed, and accumulated wealth, one inevitable outcome arose: conflict. No longer wandering, groups now had territories. And territory always came with control. Who managed the water, who guarded the crops, who controlled the food supply, and if outsiders came, protection was enforced by force. This marked the dawn of the first political age in human society. Communities that settled long enough grew into villages. Villages formed tribal alliances, which then developed into city-states and eventually early kingdoms. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians built the first cities with walls and guards. In Egypt, farmers organized to build dikes, dig canals, and serve a single ruler, the pharaoh, seen as a divine representative. During this process, Homo sapiens began organizing around centralized power. Someone stood at the top, a leader, a king, a priest, and the majority followed. This created great efficiency in warfare, construction, and agricultural management. And from here, war between groups became inevitable. Historically, war was an economic event to gain control over resources, farmland, water sources, ports, and livestock. But at the same time, it was also the expansion of cultural influence. A strong culture spread not only by the sword, but also through religion, writing, and law. The Babylonians conquered and carried with them the Code of Hammurabi. The Chinese established dynasties, developed Chinese characters, and built bureaucratic systems. The Greeks formed city-states and spread ideas of democracy and art. The key fact is this: throughout this expansion, there was only one human species present, Homo sapiens. All other Homo species had completely vanished. Though our genes still carry 1–2% Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA, no one today identifies as a different human species. And this is worth pondering. Was this the moment of Homo sapiens' total victory, or a warning about a future where biodiversity is lost? The last traces of other human species now exist only in genetics. We know Neanderthals interbred with Eurasian ancestors. Denisovans contributed genes helping Tibetans adapt to high altitudes. It's possible Homo erectus survived until nearly 50,000 years ago, somewhere yet to be excavated. But in reality, no fossils of any other human species have ever been found from historical times. Meaning, since the advent of writing, city walls, and nation-states, the only humans that have existed are us. No one else to dialogue with, no one else to compete for territory, no one else to be allies or evolutionary rivals. Yet this did not stop Homo sapiens. With no other human species to compete with, we began competing with ourselves. From tribe to tribe, from nation to nation, from kingdom to empire, conflict became intrinsic to human society. Life became more complex. Mountain dwellers built walls, plains people dug moats, coastal people built fleets. social ties became multi-layered. King, officials, farmers, merchants, slaves, privilege, wealth, class, all emerged when Homo sapiens controlled land and people. Alongside this, civilization exploded. Homo sapiens began recording history, naming stars, calculating time, creating calendars, surveying land, dividing planting seasons, building pyramids, temples, arenas, and libraries. No other species on Earth has ever done this, and it proves a unique human ability, turning imagination into reality. We turned myths into religion, symbols into politics, speech into writing, and finally, this planet into the territory of one species alone. But perhaps at that moment of glory, a quiet question arose. If all other human species have vanished, what awaits us? The ultimate loneliness may be the result of evolution, but it may also be the fragility of an absolute ruling system. So, who are we ultimately, amid the unfinished legacy of humanity? We have traveled a journey spanning millions of years, from the early days of the genus Homo to today, where only one human species remains. Us, Homo sapiens. We were not the first to walk upright. Homo erectus came before us. We are not the only ones to master fire or make tools. Neanderthals, Denisovans, and others had their own achievements. We are not the strongest, the biggest, nor do we have the largest brains. But we are the last ones standing, the storytellers, the record keepers, and the ones chosen by evolution, or luck, to continue living. So, what does that mean? First, it reminds us that existence is fragile. Other human species didn't vanish in a great war, but faded quietly and gradually, like small fires dying out in the long night of history. And if they could disappear, so can we, if we fail to learn from their fate. Second, it emphasizes that survival doesn't come from absolute dominance, but from adaptability, cooperation, and creativity. We survive because we connect, imagine, pass on memories, and learn from mistakes. These are soft tools, not weapons, but social intelligence. Not muscles, but minds. And more importantly, hearts capable of connection. Third, it places on our shoulders a responsibility unprecedented in evolutionary history, to protect what remains. When other Homo species existed, this planet was home to human diversity. Now, if Homo sapiens fall, the whole story of humanity ends. No one will continue the dream. No one will tell the next chapter. No one will fix the mistakes. We are the last living legacy of a once rich lineage, but we are also the only creators of the future left. In our hands lies not only the power to build cities, create AI, and travel through space, but the power to decide how long the human story will last. Perhaps somewhere in the Milky Way, there were creatures like the Neanderthals, living, then vanishing. Maybe their planet once knew a species like the Denisovans, strong but faint in legacy. Maybe elsewhere in the universe, another species is asking, why are we the last ones left? But here, on Earth, we know the answer. And if we understand it deeply, we can choose differently. We can choose to live not just for today, but for 10,000 years from now, for the next generations. Not only conquer, but also preserve. Not just record history, but write a new chapter. A chapter that no longer repeats the tragedy of extinction, but one of sustainable, harmonious, and more humane development than ever before. We are Homo sapiens, the thinking humans. But more than that, let us become Homo compassio, the compassionate humans. Because only with empathy, kindness, and understanding can we truly deserve to be the last survivors. Not by luck, but by knowing how to live rightly. And if one day, extraterrestrials look back at Earth and ask, what did the last humans do with their only chance? Hopefully the answer will be, they did not waste it. Thank you for joining me to the end of this journey. If you find this story worth sharing, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the 10 Minutes Discovery channel to continue exploring the unfinished mysteries of humanity, history, and the universe together. See you in the next videos, where the journey to understand the world never ends.